We're starting.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome to the April 27th Nashoba Regional School Committee regular school committee meeting. We call the meeting to order at 6:05. Citizens' comments. Do we have any comments from the gallery? No? Okay. Then we're going to move right into the public hearing portion of the agenda for school choice. We would take citizens' comments on school choice. Are there any citizens who would like to provide comments on school choice? No. Okay, then at this time, we're going to close the public hearing on school choice at 6:06. Okay, so we'll return to the regular business meeting. I have a couple of housekeeping items. Looks like we don't have a student representative report, so for our folks, so superintendent search this week, the site visits today, tomorrow, and Friday. And then once those site visits are concluded next week, Alita will make the survey results available to you so that you can review those, in addition to collecting your thoughts and coming prepared on next Wednesday to have a conversation and to deliberate and select the next superintendent. Our annual town meetings are May 2nd. There's a presentation deck that was prepared for Bolton had an information session, which was almost like a little mini town meeting. And I provided that to Alita that you folks could use as a guide. If you want to, you could do what you want otherwise, but it's just a way to provide an overview of the budget and by town. And I think the most important, and I'll give you copies of it, I brought copies. I think the most important piece is certainly for the towns to understand the assessment, what that dollar amount is, but also the last couple of pages talk about the changes and initiatives that the school committee was responsible for instituting this year. And then the final page is what our priorities are. So don't get overwhelmed when you see those. We all know what they are. So
Can I make a comment?
Pass those out. Sure.
I went to the meeting with Lorraine and Dr. Bates and Mark Jones were there as well, and I just was impressed with the way that this was presented and the way the information came across, and there was very positive feedback from the townsfolk in the audience, and I think it presents the information very clearly and concisely, and I do appreciate the last two slides about the changes and initiatives. It's very comprehensive and concise, and then I think the FY17 priorities is a nice touch. It really sets the tone and lets people know what we're thinking, and I just wanted to give you that feedback.
Oh, great.
And,
thank you.
Nice job. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This way we're all speaking from the same hymnal, and I had a lot of help from Mr. Jones on some of the numbers. But I have to thank Dr. Bates and Pat Moroney, who is the district accountant, who came and presented a big portion of the slides. She was really helpful. She did a fabulous job. Kathy Codian was there. I had an opportunity to ask, well, Mark Jones, who was there as well, a question, and Kathy a clarifying question. And a lot of the comments that I received were that it was clear that the administration and the school committee were working well together. So thank you all, and please thank Pat on my behalf again. So what I also want you to know is that document was for a kind of a different informational session. It was a much more in-depth session, and in town meeting, at least in Bolton, we generally get 10 minutes to present. So I've skinnied the document back, and it's now 4 pages, and as soon as I get that blessed, I will send that over to Alita, and we'll make that available to you guys as well. I think I actually updated Lancaster's. I can update Stowe's, but certainly you and Mark and Lynn. I can't remember,
All right, I'll check.
but I will. I'll get those out to you. So it's similar to this. It's just a skinny down version.
Skinny.
Yeah, and skinny is good.
Yeah.
We all like skinny. Okay, and then I do have a request, and that is that the MASBO report will be coming out soon. So I would like to ask if we could add a May 11th workshop date to review in depth the MASBO, I know I'm getting the look, to review in depth the MASBO report so that we can identify our list of priorities. And so I'll work through Alita, but I'm just giving you the heads up, because at that point, we should have the report by then.
Is that all we're going to do?
Pardon?
Is that all we're doing on May 11th?
That would be all we're doing. Pardon?
How long do you think that's going to take?
Couple hours. I mean, it's going to be about an 80-page report, so you're going to have some reading to do.
I'm going to be away. There's a possibility I could participate remotely, but if that's, but I also, if I get it ahead of time, I can read through it and submit questions. Is that okay?
Yep.
I
Yep.
apologize, but
Yep.
it's a pop-up meeting.
Yeah, it is a pop-up meeting, and I'm sorry, we're going to have a lot of those
That's
towards
okay,
the end
just
of the
this
year.
week is, that week is not good.
Okay,
But
all
thank
right.
you.
So maybe if you could each let Alita know.
Do we have to take a vote on the meeting?
Oh, yeah.
We would have to take a vote on the
Next time.
meeting. We
Okay.
could do it on the
That's what I
4th,
meant. Yes.
but
Oh, I see, yeah.
if you could let Alita, do you mind, if they let you know their availability on the
Make sure
11th?
that we have a quorum?
And that way, if we don't have a quorum, then I've got to try to find another date. Okay. And I didn't ask you, I apologize, if you and George would be available. Okay. So, and if you can't, what, did he just roll his eyes again? Did he do it
I
again?
did not roll my eyes.
Thank you. So now we're going to move into the new business portion of the meeting, and school choice participation vote. So I'm going to turn this over to Nicole, the chair of the policy subcommittee, to take us through this.
I think I could do it fairly quickly. Currently, this school year, the school committee decided last year to suspend the school choice policy for this school year. It is something that we have to vote on every year. Otherwise, if we do not vote, we're just automatically open for school choice. The policy committee did meet. I asked Mark to join us to give us some context as far as the financial implications of school choice, because that is generally the biggest question I get as the policy chair, is how school choice affects the budget. And after talking with him, talking with a few school choice parents, talking with Dr. Bates, the policy committee recommends that we again suspend the school choice policy for the 16-17 school year. And until such time as the administration can really sit down with the numbers of kids across the entire district, because we know they all feed into the high school, that can house additional students without, again, infringing upon the space at the high school.
Great. So does anybody have any discussion on that? All right. You want to take a vote?
We have to.
All right. Can I get a motion?
I move that we suspend the school choice policy for the 16-17 school year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Kathy, any conversation? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay. And we have a guest tonight, Dr. Graham from the high school. You're going to speak to us about an open campus concept.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
So I will do this quickly. This is, my goal here tonight is really to provide some information about conversations that have been happening in the high school council and a recommendation from the high school council. And I was hoping to get questions from you all and some sense of what next steps might be for the possibility of any future decisions. So, open campus. So for a number of years in the school council, we've had conversations about student privileges, and are there ways in which we can provide students with appropriate privileges, particularly our seniors. And open campus is something that has come up over the course of the years about this. And open campus can mean lots of things, and I'll explain in just a minute what I mean by open campus. But in particular, we had a senior, Johnny Geltima, who did, as one of his classes, a presentation on Open Campus back in, I think, January. It was a very well-done presentation. I happened to hear it, and I said, Johnny, I'd love to have you come and talk to our school council. This is something we've talked about for years. So he came and did a presentation at our March school council meeting, and we had a lot of conversation, and the school council had a unanimous recommendation that they made as a result of that. So what does Open Campus mean? So Open Campus can mean a lot of different things. At one extreme, and this is not what I'm talking about, Open Campus can mean that when a student doesn't have an assigned class, they're allowed to leave campus, they're allowed to go wherever they want on campus. That's sort of the extreme Open Campus, and there's some schools that have pretty close to that. That is not what I'm talking about. So the school council, in our discussion about Open Campus and what might be something that would be appropriate at Nashoba, came to, we have a long block every day. It's our 5th period of the day, and it's when lunch happens. It lasts for 98 minutes from 11 o'clock until 12:38. We have 4 lunches during that time. If a student does not have an assigned class during the long block, then typically if they are a freshman, then they stay with Mr. Emerson for 2 of the lunch, 46 minutes of that time, half of that time, and then they get to have lunch for half of that time, so they get an extra lunch time. If they are an upperclassman, then they eat 1 lunch, and then they either remain in the cafeteria for the other 3 lunches, or they can go to the media center if the media center isn't too full. So what the school council is proposing is that seniors who have a study period during that long block time be allowed to, with some qualifications, which I'll speak to, be allowed to leave campus and then return to campus prior to the end of that period. So it would only be during time when they have a study, and it would only be during that long block lunch period. We are not talking about any time a student has an unassigned period that they would be allowed to leave campus. We're only talking about a finite period of time. We would have, and we haven't gotten too deeply into the details, but we certainly talked about criteria that we would want to establish if we were to have something along those lines, academic and behavioral criteria. In other words, students have to be, passing a certain number of classes. They can't have gotten in trouble. Obviously, we would need to have signed parent permission for students to be able to do something like that. Students would need to sign in and sign out when they leave. It would be an abuse it and lose it sort of thing. We currently allow students, juniors and seniors, who are able to drive. If they have study first period of the day, they are allowed to come late if they have parent permission, and they're allowed to leave early if they have study the last period of the day, again, if we have written parent permission. So it's not that dissimilar from a privilege that we already provide, the difference being that this is in the middle of the school day. So it means leaving and then having to come back. So there are a number of different benefits to doing something like this. The first one is our seniors are young adults. They're getting ready to go off into the world, and this is treating them a little bit more like young adults rather than like younger kids. It gives them some freedom, but it also gives them some responsibility and holds them accountable for that responsibility. There's a very practical benefit to it. You alluded just a little while ago in the school choice conversation to crowding at the high school. So when we've got kids who are have a long block study, they're just in the media center or in the cafeteria, and so this helps to get some students off campus during that time, which eases the crowding situations a little bit. Obviously, there are concerns, the primary one being student safety. If kids are leaving, if young adults are leaving campus during the school day, then that now creates the possibility that somebody gets into a car accident or that a student engages in risky behavior. There's also the question of liability. Let's say that a student leaves campus and does happen to, even if they leave legitimately, and they get into a car accident or do something they shouldn't do, what's the liability for the district in that circumstance? So the school council was unanimously in favor of looking at this option. So I came to you today to pass along the information about our conversations, to see if you have specific questions, either that I could answer now or that I could go and research and bring back to you, and also to understand what you would see as appropriate next steps. So let's just say hypothetically that the school committee thought that this got to a point where they thought that this was a good idea. Is that something you would want to treat as district policy? Is that something where you would say, no, Perry, we want you to go back and within the student handbook, create changes within the student handbook, and then that's a localized decision at the high school? So I would want to, first of all, be able to answer questions, immediate questions you have. take questions that you want me to go research and get a sense of what next steps might be.
Go ahead, finish, Mary. Sorry.
So I'm done.
You're done. Okay, so everybody's got questions, one at a time. Kathy, go
I
ahead.
have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
So the school council, how many people are on your school council?
So we have students, parents, and staff members who are on it. We have 3 staff members, I think we have 4 parents, and we have 3 staff members in addition to me, and I can't remember the number of, we actually changed our bylaws a couple years ago to allow more students. I think we have roughly 2 students per grade level, so about 8 students that are on the council.
So how has this idea been shared outside of the school council? People that are likely to be affected by this would be members of your staff, teachers, but also secretary's office personnel. What is their feeling about this plan?
I haven't asked them about that.
Okay.
So I haven't asked the general staff. I mean, the school council is supposed to be a representative body and a decision-making body that's tasked with responsibility for the student handbook. I could certainly see getting feedback from department chairs, but one of the things I like to be careful about is who's the decision maker on something, and that not everybody gets a say on everything. I saw the school council as the most appropriate decision-making body on this. I could certainly go and look for feedback from other people as well.
Do you have a safety committee in the school?
We do?
Have they looked at the safety issues with this? That
Yep.
might be something to do.
Yep.
But the other thing that I would want to know is I would like to see data from other school districts
Yep.
that have open campus, and there is a difference, because this comes up all the time, the question of where do they go? There's a pizza place across the street, and then you have to drive everywhere else, whereas if a high school is near a town center or is in an urban area, there are more options. So I would want to see data from other school districts, those that are similar in location to our high school, and then those who are more in a town center type of a situation, and also other issues that may arise, because I know that they are young adults, but they're still adolescents, and there are issues with the adolescent brain, etc. The other thing is, you said parent permission. What if a student is 18? Do they need their parents' permission?
We still require parent permission for students to be able to, if a student says they want to leave campus if they're 18, we still want to get in touch with the parent before we do that. So my immediate reaction to your question would be, we would still require parent permission even if the student is 18.
But I'd like to see more
Yep.
data about it, and I know what you're saying about who makes the decision, but I'd like to hear what the
Absolutely.
staff has to say, and your assistant principals, who are sort of the monitors of behavior in campus, are they on the school council, and if they weighed in?
They have not weighed in yet.
Okay, so that's a lot. I'd like to see that stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Kath.
Thank you.
Okay, who wants to go next? Lynn?
The liability is huge, only because they're still considered students at that point, right? So, and that's kind of, you really got to nail that down. And also security issues. I mean, right now, the school's locked down. You cannot go in or out, so you either have to have somebody specifically assigned to that, where they're watching these kids all the time and checking their grades to make sure they meet the criteria. That's cumbersome. So I would like to see how you plan on managing that to make it not so cumbersome.
So do you mean cumbersome in the sense of being able to keep track of who qualifies and who doesn't qualify?
Correct.
So
Somebody's going to have to know all of those students by name. They're going to have to be able to check their records when they come and go.
So we currently, like students who are allowed to leave early because they have last period study, we have a master list of those students and they sign in and out of the main office. So that's a relatively large list of students.
But you don't check their grades.
No, it's
You don't check, there's no criteria for that. The only criteria you have is if it's the last day and you're not coming back.
parents are given permission.
So you're done for the day. And see, those are kind of easy because they have either, whether they're coming in late, and they're not part of the school system yet. They're coming in, and once they come in,
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big difference.
But the coming and going, that's huge. And that's now a problem. There's now
Yes,
they've
from a
got-
liability standpoint, no question. That's one of the big issues. From the kind of logistics of being able to manage that going in and out, I don't anticipate that being a very difficult thing. I mean, we run those lists all the time for a variety of different things. I mean, when we do National Honor Society, we're printing lists very easily of kids and their GPA. Academic eligibility lists, we print those every quarter. Like, those are relatively easy to manage, and then from that, you have a list of here are the students who are eligible, and then winnow that down, and then check that again every quarter. And from a disciplinary standpoint, it's relatively easy to quickly say, have students had disciplinary infractions or things. So there certainly is a logistical piece to it. On our end, those are things that we've been able to do for other purposes relatively easily.
But, I just imagine, you're going to put the SRO in charge of this? Because you don't know if these kids are coming and going with, the reason we have an SRO is because we're worried about certain things. So is now he responsible for that? Because they could be going to their car and coming back again with something we don't want.
Right, so anytime a student needs to go get something from the car, for example, they have to check out of the front office and then check back into the front office when students leave.
But nobody checks to see what they're coming and going with.
Correct, yeah, we're not like frisking kids as they come in if they've gone out to their car during the day. So to your point, I think what you're saying is, if a student leaves campus and then comes back, they could have bought a pack of cigarettes and bring that pack of cigarettes in with them when they come back from wherever they've been. Cigarettes are obviously not the primary concern, but I use that as an example.
That would be an easy.
You get it.
Right.
I don't know, all right.
So I just want to make sure, I heard two different things. One was the logistics of knowing who qualifies, who doesn't qualify, keeping track of that in and out. The second piece, three things. The second piece was liability. The third piece was, kids been gone, what do they bring with them back in?
I think that's a security, because now, we lock down the buildings because we don't want people coming and going freely, and you're having it come and go freely now. Just a plan.
Nicole, sorry, thanks, Lynn.
So, I want to kind of just expand on what Lynn just said right there. With the current climate, that we want to make sure we know exactly who is coming in and out of our school at all times. It just seems like the door is constantly open. So when Kathy talked about the safety committee, that's one thing that I would like to hear from them. Because students, that's great that they're coming in and out. It's the people that are,
Not the students.
not the students. So that.
Just to be clear, in case you're thinking this, we're not considering that we would have an unlocked door. It would still be that we have a
Yes.
locked door. Students.
We weren't thinking that at all.
Yes. And then, as far as 18-year-olds go, they're legally adults. Is there anything now that stops them from coming and going?
They are still, though, what's the correct word? They're still, they're legally,
They're not emancipated.
right, thank you, they're not emancipated. So they are still under my jurisdiction the same way that any other student. Them being 18 doesn't mean that they suddenly get to get out of certain rules that are school-related rules. So if I say they need to sign out, I need parent permission before they leave, then they need parent permission before they leave.
You good? Mark?
I'm ignorant of the logistics or the classes that may occur during the lunch period. Are there some classes during the lunch long block, or is that a study period for many people?
So because we have a rotating schedule, it means that every class will eventually rotate through.
Right.
We have a 7-period day, and so every 7 days, every class has rotated through the long block once.
Right. And so some classes are split by lunch?
Any class that's in the long block is split by lunch in some way, shape, or form. So we have 4 lunches. So typically a class is 46 minutes. So let's say you've got an English class. It's 46 minutes for 6 of the periods. But when you hit the long block, you either have first, second, or third, or fourth lunch. Lunch is 23 minutes long. So if English has first lunch, then I go to lunch first, and then after that 23 minutes I come back and I have whatever 98 minus 23 is.
Right, the remainder.
70-ish minutes of English class. So it's longer than a normal English class, than a normal period would be. If I have second lunch, I go to class for 23 minutes, then I go to lunch for 23 minutes, then I go back to class for 45-ish minutes. Third lunch, same thing. I go.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So if I don't have an assigned class for that period, I have that 98 minutes
At
as
Liberty.
I am unassigned.
Liberty, yeah.
Restricted liberty, yes.
Right. And I just want to make a comment. I attended an open campus high school before the era of lockdown schools. It was a 10th through 12th grade school, and it really changed the whole environment of the school in a very healthy way when that occurred. And I don't know how to deal with that in the current lockdown regime, which is a hard word to say, lockdown. But I recommend that kind of liberty be made available to everybody.
And I would agree with you if we weren't in the current climate, because the liability totally changes when they're there, they leave, and they come back. I don't think you can say that you're not covered under that time.
I had a couple of comments, questions, and then I'm going to ask for a reality check from Dr. Bates. But before you give the reality check, you can prove me wrong. I'm good with it. So I hear all of it, right? I want to give them more. I have concerns about current discipline issues going unaddressed in the high school, and we've heard about that. And I think it's still something that the staff is the administrative staff is trying to get its arms around. So I would want that to be resolved and to be on the right path. I'm uncomfortable with using the excuse that it eases a crowded situation in the high school. I don't think that's an appropriate reason to do it. If the reason is to give these young people who are young adults more responsibility, then that's the reason, but not to ease a crowded situation. We've already taken care of what we can with the Papa Syndicate unit, with the 2 rooms upstairs for the IT department. So we will do what we can there, but let's not use that as an excuse. Let's call it what it is. And then liability scares the heck out of me too, for the reasons that Lynn mentioned, but the other reason liability scares me is we are not in a walkable city. I don't know if you were in a walkable area in high school.
Yes, actually, and in addition, we actually walked home from elementary school and went to lunch. And
10 miles in your bare feet. It was uphill.
As much as 2 miles away, and we were capable of doing so in junior high school as well. This is in a town environment. Call it like Concord, downtown Concord.
Okay, but that's my point, all right? So my point is there would be places for them to go nearby where they didn't have to get in their cars. We all have, Nashoba's had its fair share of horrible automobile situations and the liability of kids leaving in their cars and coming back in their cars and parents not knowing, parents not giving permission for something. That, to me, that has to be handled. That's a big deal.
Right, we're more similar geographically to a Lincoln Sudbury than we are to a Concord Carlisle.
So that adds a wrinkle to it for me. I'm not saying my opinion is no, I'm saying these are the things that worry me.
Absolutely. And that was my intent. Come tonight, here's the tone of the school council. What are the questions you all have? What are the things that you need me to be doing as you consider this?
And something Kathy got to, and I feel really strongly about this, is I think it's respectable that the school council has elevated this to you, and I respect the fact and appreciate that you brought it to us. But just like the school committee, we would never say to the superintendent, you're going to do this, we want you to do this, without going to our principals and asking them what the impact of that would be. I think it's only responsible to allow your staff to have input, especially because I did hear from some teachers they're concerned about, the late starts and the time away from school, so there's different opinions there. So if you do that, the one thing I would ask is, this isn't just directed to you, Dr. Graham, anyone who's going to be providing data to us based on a survey, we're going to be a little more critical of the data based on what the survey is asking, because many times we receive surveys that are written to present a certain
How much do you love open campus?
Exactly.
Love it.
I would just ask that in order for us to be able to use that data in a decision point, that we would have the opportunity not to build it, not to approve it, but just know that if the data comes and the questions that are asked are not neutral questions, it's going to impact, because I'm a stickler on that now, because it drives me crazy. But and then I think there was one more thing. I know you want me to stop. Anyway, I think, everybody's had some great comments. I think it's, I want to know what other schools like us are doing, like you said, Lincoln Sudbury, and what the liability, what they've put in place. So what are the mitigation plans? And that's what I really want to know. Like, what's the plan? Here's what, it's like a crisis communication plan in a way. Here's what could happen. If it does, what will happen?
Yep.
And how would you mitigate that? And I'm concerned about having the folks in the front office, with as much as they currently have, involved in managing this, because I don't know how well that would go based on everything that they currently have.
Yep.
So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bates and ask for your input.
Dr. Graham and I have briefly talked about this, and I shared with him my concerns about the safety issue. I guess for me, as an educator and as a parent, I would see, granted there are students who have cars, so they're going to go off. So what and they have permission to go, and I'll say, Kathy wants to go off with me for a ride, and does she have permission? If she does, do her parents know that she's getting in a car with me?
Right.
That's my biggest thing, and about the safety and liability. And I think, again, deciding whether is it going to be policy, or is it going to be, decided at the local level and as a procedure type situation. Those are just a couple questions that I had asked.
But that's a really good point. Is it going to be policy? And I'm going to ask you folks, because to me, our mantra this year has been allow the schools to do the best they can or not based on what they want. But because of the liability issue, this feels to me like the district needs to be on the hook.
When you're surveying other districts, maybe that could be something to be included.
Yeah.
If there's a policy or if it's handled through the student handbook, because that'd be interesting to look at. And then
Yeah.
process.
And what is the teachers and administration, are they going to be coming and going to now?
Huh? No, this is students.
I know, so just students, so if the students are doing it, will the teachers be allowed to now run out?
Teachers are not currently just allowed to leave, but they check an administrator and they need to go out and grab some lunch, then,
Then they would, okay.
yeah.
So you wouldn't be, I would think that if the students stopped doing it, that the teachers you'd have more of it.
So, it's, with students, it's, you have assigned classes and then you have unassigned study hall time. Teachers have planning time. That's not free time, that's planning time, that's time that they're still being paid. So, teachers are not allowed to just leave any time they want. Again, they're adults. If someone comes to me and says, I need to run off and do this, they're checking with the administrator first. But I wouldn't anticipate a need to change expectations around that because we're talking about two different situations, if that makes sense.
How
what?
How critical is, I'm just wondering how strict it is at the high school right now, or even the other schools, about, showing up on time, leaving on time. Is that all that being documented?
For the students?
And the teachers.
Okay, but we're talking about open campus.
Nope, and I get that, and I'm just wondering, because if you have a handle on it, you have a handle on it. And I'm just wondering if we allow the students to do this, which gives them some flexibility. I would just want to make sure that the school is being operated regimentally, I guess, I don't know, just so that, okay, it's operating smoothly, everyone's on time, because if people are coming and going when they want and there's no regulation to it, this would just add to it.
But that's why we're giving Dr. Graham this input, so that we're asking, what would the plan be? How would it be structured? And that would be included in it. What's the process, right?
Yes.
And then what's going on currently?
Well, no, what's going on currently is not, if this agenda item is the open campus concept, what's going on currently is we don't have it. So I think that what you're asking is an offline conversation.
Okay.
All right? Okay, do you have enough?
Oh, no, that's great.
Would you like more? I don't know if you have any. Oh, and Mark's going to make a plug. Go.
So just one more question. There's anxiety about liability, but it would be nice to know what the actual liability is. Do the schools act in loco parentis actually, or is it really different than that? That's
Yeah, what would happen to the insurance?
well, other school districts have it, again, just check with that.
Yeah, so that would be
I mean,
something.
my point of view is actually, is there really any liability?
Yes.
Yeah, well, how could there not be?
I'm
If
serious.
you got kids that are under Dr. Graham's purview for the entire day, but they have the opportunity to leave and
Right.
come back, and I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying,
understand.
there's gotta be liability with automobiles and now they're not under the umbrella of the safety of the school.
Well, I would call that anxiety as opposed to knowing what the facts are.
Well, that's what we gotta find out.
Right.
No, those are great questions. Those are the kinds of questions I anticipated, and getting back to the question you asked about policy versus kind of local, this is the kind of thing that I would want to, even if it's not necessarily a district-level policy, it's something that I would want to know that the school committee felt very comfortable with, which is why I wanted you all to be in the loop on this.
And we appreciate you doing that, because that would have been one of those.
I mean, again, it's something we've talked about in our school council for years, but it's never kind of risen to the level of, oh, we should really think about actively doing this. What I also don't want to do is spend 3 or 4 months actively, like, investigating, doing this and that, come to the school committee, and you'll say, are you kidding? Of course we're not going to do something like that. So, I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is,
Give us more.
certainly have concerns, lots of questions. The immediate reaction isn't, oh my God, we could never do something like this, but would not need to.
You gotta convince us with the data and the plan.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Thank you,
so much.
sir. Thanks for coming.
But don't go anywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't go anywhere.
Do I
Okay.
stay here, or do I get to
No,
go
you
back to
can
my...
go back. Take a
I'm going to my
breather.
visitor seat.
Yes.
Because the next one is,
I need him for graduation requirements.
oh, I think we should probably let Tom and then
Yeah.
poor Dr.
Yes.
Graham can go back again. Tom, would you like to come and talk to us about the DESE Food Services Administrative Review? It's in your packet, everyone. Good evening. Hello, so if you would just tell us, would you like to...
Toes go numb if they don't, you know?
You want to give us a quick overview of what we're looking at, and then,
Sure. The files that you've received are all the information that were sent to the Department of Education after their review. They come every 3 years to do this type of review to every school food authority in the country. So they were here when was it? It was supposed to be in October of last school year. I don't think it was until February that they actually came. So they spent 3 days here and went through all our financials and all of our menus and all of the things that they go through to make sure that we're following proper protocol and procedures and providing our students the healthiest and most nutritious and delicious food that we can, because we are federally funded. So with that, we submitted the menu for the week that they were here at the high school. We also submitted our breakfast menu. And then after they left, some of the items that you see are from the corrective action plan for some things that they thought we should treat differently, or they found an error in.
okay. So can I stop you for 1 second?
Certainly.
So corrective action plan, Dr. Bates, I think people hear that and they might get nervous, so if you could put that in perspective for us?
In any sort of coordinated program review throughout any school district, any sort of findings, whether it's minimal or whatever, they provide you the opportunity to provide them with information to help correct whatever they saw, or and it's not a major thing, but and then they give you a time frame in order to get it. So it could be 6 months, 3 weeks, whatever it is.
Depending on the amount of information
Right.
needed to.
And you submit it, and if it meets the criteria, then they approve that, and if they don't, they'll say, we want some more. And then once you've met all that criteria, that they approve the whole plan, and you're off corrective action at that point. So it's not a real horrible negative thing. It just depends on how many, I call them, how many hoops you have to jump through to meet the criteria for the state.
So it's
And it may-
oversight because they own the purse?
Right.
Okay.
It may be dependent on the reviewer. It
Exactly,
may
yep.
be many of these things could have been corrected that day.
Had they asked the question and so forth, right then and there,
Yes.
he could have run and, let's say, if
Exactly.
you didn't show us the breakfast menu, he could have gone to his, but they just put it in the report, so then they have to submit it. So,
So of everything in the report, what's the most challenging, problematic, going to require the most amount of time from your perspective?
Actually, they were all very, very minimal.
Oh.
The things that they found were, I submitted January's paperwork instead of February's. I grabbed the wrong folder when I uploaded it. And so from now on, I will double check or have a second set of eyes check to ensure that the proper month was uploaded into the system. We had one question on one application out of the percentage that they checked. One student was paid but should have been reduced. And it was our software system does it by the month. If you take someone's pay twice weekly or every other week as opposed to the month, there's a minuscule difference. And that was the difference in that particular instance, where now we need to not only run it through our program, but manually check all the free and reduced lunch benefits to ensure that a student isn't receiving the benefits that they shouldn't be, or are receiving the benefits they should be.
How many kids are on free and reduced lunch in the school district?
There's about 7% district-wide.
Okay.
So I think that's around 240 students, maybe, free and reduced. And it's gone up significantly since the state's put into action the direct certification plan through the Department of Public Health. We find very few parents who will send the letter back saying, no, thank you. There are a couple, there are always a few, but that does increase our numbers significantly.
So I have a question
Sure.
on the finding of a cash resource balance no greater than 3 months average expenditures.
Yes,
So what does the 198,000 represent? How many months is that?
3 months. Wait, is that, can I look at that? Let me look at this.
Sure.
Was that, that was the amount over that we had in our account.
Oh, it exceeds
And
it
it
by...
exceeded it by
Wow.
$200,000.
So what should happen with that? How should
We need to reinvest in the program. And those are things that we've already started taking action on to try to increase our participation and provide the staff with the type of equipment to better serve our students and more rapidly prepare meals without using more personnel hours, but using the staff we have. Some of the items we've recently ordered, we have 2 new state-of-the-art ovens, one in Lancaster and one at the high school. We're also changing up the serving style in Lancaster at the Burbank School to try to bring back, to try to increase some of the participation by having a grab-and-go area similar to what we have at the high school, but it would be in the same lane just because of the setup of that actual food service servery. So we hope to have burgers and hot burgers and type sandwiches for the students down there once the stuff that comes in. Yeah, we have that regularly now, so I'm glad you like that. I don't know that the students are loving it as much as
That's
some
all right,
of
we
the
love it.
adults, but we keep it on the menu. So we need to reinvest some money into the program. Our program's about $100,000 a month to operate. So,
The portable cart.
well, yes, we did buy the portable cart. Actually, it was ordered today to help increase participation at the high school because we have seen a significant decrease there over the past year plus.
That will allow him to provide snacks and things down in study hall. So,
And as well as,
That is the long-term, auditorium lobby that they
yes.
made really nice and attractive. So
All
now
right, all
everyone's
right,
over
all
there.
right, all right.
That's a positive.
Point
And
made.
We'll
point
also
made.
be able to use it because it retains heat and cold to set up another station within the cafeteria itself. I've already talked to the technology people, and we can get a wireless system to work. And even if it's wired, it needs to be wired, it's not that big a deal. Our electrician here on site, who's tremendous, can wire that for us, so we can have another, say, taco bar or enchilada bar, and I'm leaning towards the southwestern kind of things, but it can be something as easy as make your own Caesar salad bar, and that will draw the people, hopefully increase the amount of people who want to purchase a meal, but keep them out of the already busy lines that will be where the deli unit's going, because we did also get the deli unit in, and the pizza line, and those type of things.
That makes sense. Does anybody have any questions? Lynn?
Why is this dated June 2015? Did all this happen back then and you're just getting the
Yes.
results back now?
No. I had met with the previous administrator and shared all the results. Matter of fact, the letters were given, I get a copy of the letter, and the letters were sent to the previous administration.
And I had just gotten the report when I presented to you that everything had been cleared, all of his
Right, that all the,
corrective actions were done, and the district had met all the requirements.
Okay.
that's
And
when
that
I
we're not in
presented
any-
it to you.
Okay.
Thank
So it's
you.
just an update.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
for coming.
It's always great to see all of you. I
Appreciate
appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. So,
You must
thank
bring
you.
your sandwiches when you come back. Chicken
That's
salad,
easy.
please.
We have such a great staff that I'm sure we would be able to accommodate that.
All right, thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot,
Tom.
Tom.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
You too. Okay, folks, we need to vote to add, did we do that already? No, the May 5th meeting?
Are we definitely meeting on May 5th?
Or the 11th?
You were gonna discuss.
Okay, that's what it was. Thank you, Alita. I knew it, you so, thank you. So we're meeting next Wednesday.
Yes.
And the purpose of next Wednesday's meeting, we have two minor things. Actually, they're not minor, they're short, but they're important to, kind of exciting, I'm not telling you what they are yet. Before we get into deliberation on the superintendent candidates. There should be no reason why we can't get through the discussion and decision on the 4th. However, given the makeup of these wonderful folks that sit on this committee, including moi, if we need additional time on the 5th, we need to vote to add that tonight. Now, we could add it and
Not use it.
tentatively say we need it and then we don't use it, but if not, then we are here until the duration on the 4th. And so I heard from one member who said, I need to sleep on it. And I don't know how you folks feel about that. Mark, I know you have an opinion.
I'm content to schedule a second meeting in case we need it, and then we're ready to go if we need it.
I concur.
Okay? Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we add a meeting on May 5th, if it's needed.
No, you can't say that part. Just, you have to have a meeting. You can cancel it.
So the motion is to add another school committee meeting on May 5th. Okay,
I second the motion.
thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. It's back to you, Nicole.
Okay. You guys, I'm sure, did a whole lot of reading over the last several days of our policies. The good news is, a lot of these policies are the boilerplate policies that have not been reviewed since 2001. And we should be reviewing them in a more timely manner. But as far as the policy committee was concerned with these particular ones, we think we're just going to be able to pass them all through. What I do want to say is all of the policies that we read tonight, this is our first reading. We're not expecting anything to actually be voted on and go through tonight. The discussion will be if anything has to come back to the policy committee, or if we just push it to our next school committee meeting for a second reading where we will vote them through. And it can be a combination of all those for all these policies. First, I would like to bring Dr. Graham forward to discuss the graduation requirements policy. In your packet that Alita made us, which is so awesome, there is the revision that Dr. Graham is recommending, along with what our current policy is, so you can compare the two when he talks about the changes. This one was brought up by a committee member who's unfortunately not here tonight about making please.
Making everything count?
Yes, thank you. Not so much making everything count, but making everything count, and the requirements being more logistically doable.
Yep.
All right.
So what does that mean?
So I'll speak to the primary changes. I can pull up the, do you have copies of the?
Yeah, it's hard to look at them online.
Oh, you guys,
I don't have
So
it.
this shows. Thank you. So the first change on here, on the first page where it talks about sort of the big picture expectations for students and why we have graduation policies and what we're looking for in kids, I'm not making any recommendations for changes to that. So the first primary change is, you'll see we had in the previous policy years, and then we had credits. That's something that was added prior to my coming here, but my understanding is that it hasn't been in place a tremendously long period of time, so that doesn't have a particularly long history. We used to just have years, and then credits were added for a period of time, and so my recommendation is that we remove that credit piece, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So we require a minimum of 90 credits to graduate. A student who is in a class that meets every day all year earns 4 credits. A semester-long class that meets every day is 2 credits. We have some classes that have like an extra lab period that could be 5 credits or 6 credits. Our wellness classes at the junior and senior level are typically 1 credit. They meet every other day for a semester. So a student needs to accrue a total of 90 credits in order to graduate. And then they need credits within specific areas. We used to say you needed X number of years. So English is the best example and probably the most important one here. You have to pass English for 4 years in order to graduate. Then at some point, the requirement was also made that you, not only do you need to pass English for 4 years, but you also need to earn 16 credits. You might think, well, if you pass English for 4 years, you earn 16 credits. We have an attendance policy that says that if a student goes beyond a certain number of unexcused absences, even if they pass the class, they lose credit for the class. So if a student is in a semester-long class and they have more than 7 unexcused absences, they then lose credit for the class. They pass the class, it goes on their transcript, but they do not earn credit for the class. A student who has more than 14 unexcused absences for a year-long class does not earn credit for that class. So it is possible to pass a class but earn no credit for it. Now, we work with students who have and first of all, let me make sure that I'm clarify. I'm talking about the difference between unexcused absences and excused absences. An excused absence does not count against you. So if a student is out for medical reasons, if a student has an extended absence for a medical reason or something along those lines, those are not considered to be unexcused absences. They are excused absences.
And that has to have a doctor's note.
So the answer is yes, sort of. We allow up to 7 parent-excused absences over the course of a year. So 7 times in a class, a parent can say, or over the course of 7 full days, a parent can say, my child wasn't feeling well, please excuse this absence, and we excuse the absence. That's marked with a P, so that's a parent-excused note. So parents can excuse up to 7 absences.
I need to clarify something too. So that is after the fact, before, doesn't matter.
It's great if we have it right around the time it happens. I mean, obviously you don't know your kid's going to be sick, so it's great if the next day the kid's in, when they're feeling better, they bring in a note that says, please excuse my child,
So
child
just
is
7
sick.
for the whole year.
7 parent-excused absences, correct. Parent can bring, at any time, a student can bring in, or a parent can provide us with medical documentation, and that's a medical excused, so that doesn't count as part of the 7.
Okay, thank you.
So if a student exceeds the number of unexcused absences that are allowed, first of all, we're running reports on a pretty regular basis about student absences. We run a report every, I can't remember if it's month or quarter, I think it might be month, for every student who has 5 or more unexcused absences in 2 or more classes, and this is per state law, we send a letter to the parent saying, here are your child's unexcused absences, we want to talk to you about this. And then I think the next trigger point is 12.
Do the parents have the opportunity at that time to say, well, they were throwing up, or something?
So in the letter that we send them, we say, if you think that these should be excused absences, please contact us, let us know. So in some cases, parents may not have sent in a note, but then they get that letter and they say, oh, hold on, my child was sick, I'll send in a note. So parents can excuse that with up to 7, or they can provide medical documentation. We have some kids who have school anxiety, and so we have a doctor's note that says that sometimes this kid's not going to be able to come to school, so that becomes a medically excused absence. So kids who are absent a significant number of times, who exceed the number of unexcused absences and are in danger of losing credit, generally what we will do is we will put them on an attendance contract where we say, okay, you know what, for this semester right now, you didn't earn credits. If you can demonstrate X% attendance for this semester, you can earn those credits back. So we work very hard with students, but at the same time, students have a requirement to be in school. So it is possible that a student can pass a class but not earn credit for the class. And that does happen.
Can you say about numbers?
It's relatively infrequent. It is relatively infrequent that we have, I mean, I can't give you a percentage off the top of my head. I mean, it's a single-digit percentage, and we're probably talking about no more than 5% of the kids in the building who would be in any sort of danger for credit reduction because of absence.
And some pretty good fraction of those will cover their credits because of effort.
Correct. We're going to work with them. We're going to work with the parents to figure out the situation. A kid who misses 14 days and when you consider parent excused absences, parents can excuse up to 7. You're talking about 21 absences over the course of a year where they just didn't come to school. That's a pretty significant number. We don't have many kids who reach that number of absences.
No, just wait a second, I can't lose this thought.
So one of the challenges with having this second thing that says credits, so let's say a kid passes English, but they lose credit because of the absences, but they still get to their 90 credits, they graduate. But right now the policy says 16 credits. That means that you have to pass English and get credit for English all 4 years. And in particular, the way we run our senior year English classes is kids take 1 semester of one English class and then they take another semester of another English class. So second semester, that English class, if a kid just starts not coming to school, they pass English by the skin of their teeth, but they miss too many days, they're now not graduating because of 1 semester of having missed English even though they passed their English class. English is the place where this becomes most critical, but it can also become an issue in other areas as well. Again, a kid who passed their math class but had excessive numbers of absences, unexcused absences, so they don't earn credit. So, what I would recommend is that we get rid of this credit in individual subject areas, maintain that you need to pass English for 4 years, but we want you have to get to 90 credits overall.
Yeah.
So that is the first kind of big recommendation that I'm making.
So before you go on,
Yes.
the question that I had was on, where is it documented, the process and the procedure that the administration goes through to ensure that these students are given the earliest opportunity to know that they're in jeopardy?
Student handbook. So in the student handbook, it talks
It's
about
all
attendance.
outlined. Okay,
Talks about
thank you.
attendance, talks about attendance
Okay,
policy, talks
thank
about
you.
credits, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Yes. That is outlined in excruciating detail in our student handbook.
Thank you.
Is this, are you creating a loophole for not attending the required number of hours of education?
So the state isn't suggesting that we need to monitor individual students being in instruction for 990 hours. It's that our overall schedule has to include 990 hours of instruction. If it was each kid has to get to 990 hours, I mean, the moment you become absent, you potentially you've lost six
Bless you.
hours.
So is there a requirement for the number of, or do you just have to pass a class?
Okay, so let's you still want to you want to continue, right?
Well, there's an attendance requirement. Yes, you can't have more than 7 unexcused absences in a semester-long class, more than 14 unexcused absences in the middle class. So,
Yep.
so that's the first thing. The next thing is, in the old requirement, so we've got individual subject area requirements, and in the old policy, we used to have, well, there's a language change there, fine arts to fine and performing arts. But the big change there is we used to have a 4-credit or 1-year technology graduation requirement. So you had to take classes that were specifically designated as meeting this technology graduation requirement. And it's a relatively broad number of classes that meet the technology graduation requirement. And in our program of studies, by class, it says this class meets the technology graduation requirement. So there are more standard classes that you would expect, things like if you're learning about how to build a web page design class, that obviously meets the technology graduation requirements, but other classes such as journalism, music technology, music theory meet the technology graduation requirement. And that's a decision that I make class by class based on the curriculum of the class. It can't just be, oh, hey, we use technology every now and then. That has to be a substantive portion of the curriculum in the class in order for me to determine that it meets the technology graduation requirement. So one of the things philosophically that has always bothered me about this is that we have classes that do not count in the building. They count towards the overall 90 credits to graduate, but if you take a business class at the high school, that does not count towards a specific subject area requirement. There has been no business. Business was not part of something. If you take a metals class, if you take a woods class, that does not count towards, other than the overall 90. All the other subject areas have specific requirements. So I had many conversations with the Business, Technology, and Applied Arts Department about this, tried to get a lot of their feedback around this. I've talked to my Student Advisory Council, I've talked to my school council about this, I've talked to my department heads about this, and where I finally got to is I would like to expand that to become a more inclusive category so that all classes at the high school count. So rather than it being a technology graduation requirement, it is a Business, Technology, and Applied Arts graduation requirement. So if I take a business class, it now meets this graduation requirement. One thing I considered for a while was, well, should we just eliminate technology specifically and just have it be one big umbrella, but we don't have any kind of technology focus? I got a lot of feedback that I thought that swayed me, that while students today are very familiar with technology, they're all carrying technology in their hip pocket, that doesn't mean that they know how to use technology tools well. And that in our world, it is still important, just because a kid has a Chromebook that they bring to school every day doesn't mean that they have a sophisticated understanding how to use different programs. That there is still tremendous value in requiring students to learn about some specific technologies. And so what I am recommending is that we expand that technology category to business, technology, and applied arts, so everything counts. However, we still do require that a student get at least 2 credits or 1 semester worth of a technology-specific class. And again, technology-specific is relatively broad. Kids aren't just required to take a computer science. There are a lot of different ways in which they're learning how to use technologies.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Excuse me. So when it says 1 year, that means 2 semesters of it?
Correct.
But it doesn't have to be in the same year?
Correct.
And the same thing for wellness. It's
So in the
4 years is how many semesters?
So 4 years, and then in our program of studies, we outline specifically what we require for wellness year by year.
Mm-hmm.
Freshmen take 2 credits worth of wellness, so they take wellness every other day all year.
Okay.
Sophomores take 1 semester of PE, and then 1 semester of health every other day all year, so that's the equivalent of 2 credits.
Yeah.
Juniors and seniors are each required to earn 1 credit in wellness. There are a variety of different classes that meet that requirement, so we have things, anywhere from CrossFit and team sports to non-physically active classes. So things like foods meets the wellness requirement, on your own meets the wellness requirement. EMT, if a student is an EMT, they're taking an EMT class and they're earning credit for that, that will meet the wellness requirement for 1 year. So a non-physically active class can be used to meet the junior or senior wellness requirement once. So you need to have at least a physically active class one of those 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we try to provide RAD meets the wellness graduation requirement, the Great Progression Defense class.
So, if we're talking about 21st century skills, and I'm sure this is not something people want to do right now, but I'm going to make a plug for this, and then I'm going to keep coming back and hammering it. Wellness is important, but, and I can give you all the studies and the data, financial wellness is critical. And financial wellness impacts wellness. And I don't know why we don't have a requirement that students need to learn how to, and this is old school, but, you know, advance it to 21st century skills, balance a checkbook. They don't know how to do it anymore. In the days of debit cards and credit cards and chips, nobody's balancing their accounts. So I think that we are doing our students a disservice by not teaching them financial health habits now. And I also think that, again, I can give all of us the statistics, it's critical and it's a problem. And it's a problem in the younger ages because of the enablement of access to money.
We do offer a personal finance class in our...
I don't want to interrupt. You offer it, but you don't
It is not
require
required.
it.
And I should point out that with what I'm proposing, personal finance would now meet a specific graduation requirement. It would now be part of the business, technology, and applied arts requirement. However, I think your point is, it's not required of every student.
And it should be.
That's your opinion.
Well, I can give you the data, but yeah.
But just, yeah.
Right.
But it also ties into, I mean, when you look at the little bullet points ahead, they make me a little nervous. Become productive and responsible. What if they don't? You know, challenge themselves and pursue excellence.
Oh, he's not down there yet.
No, this is a page above.
You're talking about the first page.
Oh.
I'm not recommending any changes to the first page.
What if they don't? What if they don't meet?
Those are philosophical, though. That's the philosophical goal of it. You know what? You're not going to be able to shackle them and force them.
That's fine. It just, if
You
we're
will
going to
be
write down that, you know,
responsible.
they will be able to do this, then.
And you will say you're sorry. I know. I'm sorry. Dog brain. But
Yes, that's-
financial
that's-
wellness. Okay.
Lorraine's opinion, Lorraine?
So
So you recommend
moving
it's
from
added?
there now to the bottom. So most of the language in the bottom is mainly just kind of cleaning up language. So for example, rather than saying every student is expected to enroll in 25 credits, a minimum of 25 credits each year. I've been asked the question, should we go below 25 credits? I feel pretty strongly that we should maintain a minimum of 25 credits. We don't want kids in school to just be sitting around. We want
Can you
kids to
talk
enroll in
about that
classes.
some more? Because you know that's a bone of contention for a lot of folks. And I received a couple of, I think maybe they let each other know to contact me this summer, specifically about the 25 credits a year. And I think it's important, first of all, I don't know that, I think people just don't get that if I've got to have 90, why do I need 25 a year? Could you just talk to that a little
90
bit?
is the floor. It is not, that is a minimal expectation that we want kids to get to. Most students graduate from Nashoba with many more than 90 credits. We want kids to be in school to learn things, and it's particularly true when they get to their senior year. What I will sometimes hear from seniors, and a handful of parents, is, well, I'm on track to get my 90 credits, so I want to have 3 studies a day. There is nothing productive about a student simply being in the building for 3 studies a day. And generally, students who have 3 studies a day are not using their studies to study. They are not using that as productive time. Students are in school to be educated. We have a very wide variety of very engaging classes. We have worked very hard to try to create lots of opportunities for any type of student in a variety of areas. We want kids to be in school to learn things, not to sit around.
But it doesn't, so if they're required to have a minimum of 25 credits, why not just say you have to have 100 credits for everyone?
Because what if somebody fails a class?
It just seems that it doesn't make sense that I'm required to do 25 credits a year, that's 100 credits, but I only need 90 to graduate, so why say, do you see what I'm getting at?
I do. So that kind of connects back to the earlier conversation about, a kid who passes a class but doesn't earn credit for a class. Again, we're not going to have that many instances in which that happens. I hadn't come to you with a recommendation to increase the floor. We certainly have students who, getting to that 90 to graduate, they'll hit their minimum requirements. And by the way, the minimum requirements here I don't believe they add up, I should know my math correctly, I don't believe those necessarily add up to 90. I mean, kids are going to take many more classes than the minimum.
How many kids would we, to Kathy's point, because that was originally my concern last year, is just give us 100, but how many kids are struggling to get to the 90?
Each year we have kids. I wish I could give you a number. I would say, if I had to guess, I would say we probably have 15 to 20 kids, maybe not that many in a graduating class, 10 to 15 kids maybe in a graduating class, where we are working to get them to that 90 in all of their credits.
So what happens if a kid doesn't, everybody's expected to enroll in a minimum of 25 credits. What happens at the end of freshman year if a kid doesn't have 25 credits?
So a student is not required to pass 25 credits a year, they're required to be enrolled in 25 credits. So if a kid fails a class for the year, then they didn't earn credit for that class. They don't necessarily, depending upon the class, they may or may not need to, if it's an English class, they got to get those credits. If it's an elective class, they need to find another class where they get those credits.
I guess I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm having a hard time with the idea that you're expected to enroll in a minimum of 25 credits, but you may not be expected to pass them. It just doesn't jive.
So what do you think of, it's not an existential crisis if you fail a course?
What does that even mean?
Well, it means if for whatever reason some course is not working for you, maybe it's an experiment, you're stretching for this, poor kid is not going to make it. It doesn't set him back, but in high school, that they miss one course.
Or that he took a reschedule.
Maybe another perspective is it
I'm just
induces
saying.
experimentation on students to try stuff out that may not be their best thing.
So
That's just a perspective opportunity.
Kathy, I was where you used to be, but I've gone to the dark side on this with Jonesy, who is now all about the kids, and I'm so proud of you. But you have to, I think that, to me, and I could be wrong, and you got to correct me, is that's a catch-all so that a student isn't devastated if something happens with a class.
And I think also we have to remember that we are trying to let them out and be responsible, productive citizens. They have to be accountable to themselves, and allowing them to be to take those kinds of risks. I think number one allows them to grow, and then allows them to be part of their schooling. And the parents to also get in there and...
I'm actually with Kathy on this one, only because if you expect them to get 100 credits, they'll get 100 credits. I feel like we're lowering the bar.
No, but it's
But
not about
Lynn,
failing
you're
a
not
class.
thinking about the kid that's struggling and working real hard, and maybe emotionally the kid can't be in certain situations, and it's got nothing to do, I mean, who knows? There's all these different, help me out here, all these different flavors of
That is
students.
absolutely, I mean, I can think of several students in particular this year who are seniors who, it's not that they are not academically capable, it's not that they're just blowing off their work. They have stuff going on that is, when we're scrambling to try to figure out how do we get them the credits that they need in order to be able to graduate legitimately. We don't just award credits for nothing.
But aren't these kids that have these legitimate struggles, aren't they under 504s? Isn't that what the 504 was for?
They could be on a 504 or an IEP, yes, but that doesn't change the graduation requirement.
But that would give them an accommodation that would help them.
But it doesn't get them credits.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're still going to be successful based on the severity of whatever it is they have.
I mean, we're trying to figure out some sort of a work-study program for a kid that's going to be able to earn them credits as an alternative. If the school committee wanted to say that we're going to change this to 100 credits, then we would, our graduation rate would absolutely drop. We would have students who are not able to graduate in 4 years. Now, I'm not saying that's good, bad, or in between. I'm saying that's reality. We would have students who would not be able to get to that in 4 years.
So graduation rates to me, this is going to be provocative, but graduation rates to me sound like we're satisfying the state or we're satisfying something. What I really want to know is, are they successful? Are they ready? So that's the question. Is it really about the graduation rate, or is it really about, are these kids ready to go out and do whatever it is they need to do? So is adjusting the graduation credits.
When I say graduation rate, I don't mean that in terms of satisfying the state. I mean, we're going to have fewer kids that are going to be graduating and be able to go out and do whatever the next step is in their life. It's going to take them additional time to be able to do that.
I mean, everybody has their opinion, but...
Can I ask a basic question? If I'm just taking a college prep English course, how many credits would that be per semester? 4 credits.
It's two. An English class is generally year-long. It's 4 credits for a year-long class.
For a year-long.
That meets every day.
Right. And so generally the higher credit courses are science courses with lab.
So the classes that would have more credits, I'm trying to think if there's one other than science. We have some like interdisciplinary classes where it's in English and social studies, and so you're earning 8 credits for the class, but it's 2 periods and it's 2 subjects combined together. Individual classes where you're earning more than 4 credits, I believe, are exclusively science. And we have 5 credit classes where you have an additional science period every 4th day, 6 credit classes where you have an additional science period every other day, and then AP Biology, AP Chem, it's 2 periods per day, so 8 credits each.
Thank you. In relation to, as long as I take the floor, in relation to the state requirements, how do these credits relate? Are there state requirements that speak to this particular topic?
The state does have specific requirements. They're built into the requirements here. For example, the state requires 4 years of English. So the state requirements are less than the requirements that we set. But then other questions that kind of attached to that are things like, what do Massachusetts colleges and universities look for? And I should have brought Jody Speck with me because she can speak to that in much more detail than I can. She spoke at the personnel subcommittee meeting. And state colleges and universities expect significantly more than we're asking for here. Your general private college and university expect more than the specific things than we're asking for here to graduate. Philosophically, I would be very concerned about increasing the number of credits a student needs to graduate, because we will have, in addition to, I mean, your question is running through my head, Lorraine. We have kids who are ready to go off into the world, who, in my opinion, deserve and have earned a high school diploma, but who will not have 100 credits.
I'd like to share a perspective on that, let the students get out, because I didn't have a senior year, because for whatever reason I took a few courses earlier on and had enough credits to just get out. And so I'm in favor of not making it onerous if someone's got stuff to do to go on to the next thing. And so I would not be in favor of raising the number of credits.
That's not widely publicized. But if they have 90 credits, they can graduate as a junior?
Well, they have to meet all the specific requirements
4
as well.
years of English. Yeah, so
Well, it's possible though.
We do have some
No.
students who graduate early. It's unusual, but we do have some students who do it.
So are they doing like dual?
Yep. So a student can do, they could do dual enrollment, they could potentially take classes over the summer through a college, university, or a community college to earn credit. They could, I can't think of a student in my 4 years that's graduated in 3 years, but we have had some that have graduated in 3.5 years, and generally it's because they've taken like classes at a
language.
community college to double up. Yep. And when we do, if a student takes a class at an accredited university, that credit counts towards graduation. It's
Okay,
transfer
and this doesn't
credits.
stop me from doing that.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
I want to hear more from Kathy, because I know...
No.
You sure?
No, it's a personal philosophical thing, and I'm not going to fly in the face of what has been decided for the high school, and it gets convoluted. I'd like to keep this as focused as we can. So
So your comment isn't
Step it up.
germane to the
No, it is
specific...
not.
Okay, thank you. All righty.
So then, most of the rest of this is some language cleanup with what I did there after you get through the bullets. There we had exemptions, proficiency tests, and then an asterisk that related to the technology graduation requirement. I tried to take those sentiments and put them into one place, the exemptions or alternatives, because we do have exceptional situations where I might be in a position, or I might be asked and consider counting something as something else, counting some sort of other experience as something else, if it's in the best interest of the student. Those are pretty rare. The ones that have come up with regularity have been the technology graduation requirement, but I think that's been addressed largely through the proposed changes. So the language here gives me some flexibility in exceptional situations, but places some pretty clear boundaries around that, I think.
Do we help kids that want to do GED? Or is that something totally outside of?
We have put together some different plans to support kids in unique circumstances. So that's not something that we have like an explicit program for, but yes. I mean, just about anything, any case you could imagine, we've probably tried to do that with some kid at some point to help them get to the finish line.
And that would fall into your exemptions and alternatives?
Well, if a kid's earning a GED, then they're not necessarily graduating. That's usually an alternative to graduating from high school. But we have come up with, I've got a senior this year who essentially finished at the end of the first semester, and then we have a work-study program and some alternative stuff, because that's what's right for this kid. And it's working. He's going to graduate on time. He's going to participate in graduation ceremony.
Okay, so what are you looking for from us?
Well, this again was the first reading. Everyone can, unless there's big disagreement on what the...
This is second reading.
second reading by policy subcommittee.
Okay, keep going, Nicole.
Unless there's disagreement that you want to send it back to the policy subcommittee for more revision. We will again discuss, we will have our second reading for the larger school committee and hopefully pass it.
Will it be
So-
cleared up? Want to say it again?
Yeah, we can clear it up. We can, meaning Alita.
Actually, it is cleaned up if you keep going down. I put in the clean version if you keep going down.
You did.
Listen, she would make
you.
I have a question on student fees.
Everything marked up.
Those are a major, you
So-
can't graduate without student fees.
So,
What does that have to do
I
with
think,
this?
are we ready?
So is there any further discussion on this particular policy? Do you want to send it back to the policy committee? Are we okay to move it forward for our second reading?
Kathy, what do you think?
I
You
think
good?
it's ready to go.
You ready to go? Mark, do you have any other questions? Or, actually,
major
not questions, but Lynn, we're going to move this forward unless you have a major concern.
No, I'm sorry, Lynn asked a quick question about fees and graduation requirements. That doesn't hold up a kid's ability to graduate, it holds up their ability to get to
Okay, we're good. All right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Perry.
If there is something that comes up in the next week or so, please pass your question through Lorraine. She will get an answer for all of us for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so all of these policies. If you don't mind, I'm just going to call out the policy letters number, and I'm going to start with the ones that the policy committee did not really recommend.
We lost our form.
Excuse me.
Love to.
I'm sorry. Why don't we call a
Recess.
5-minute recess? Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
all set? Thanks. Okay, Nicole, you were saying.
The policies that the policy committee really recommends no change to, I'm going to call out one at a time. If you could go through your packet and just say if you would like to talk about them. Hopefully, we can, as I said, get through these. The policy committee has been busy and productive. I would like to thank Neil and Kathy for...
Or can we throw out ones we have concerns about?
So, well, let me do it first. So, we can definitely throw out the ones we have concerns about.
Okay.
So, policy KDDA, publication of personal information.
Anybody have any issues with it? No?
All right, so that will go to second reading. Policy LB, relations with other schools and school districts.
Anything? No.
That will go to second reading. Policy HF, school committee negotiating agents.
Keep going.
All right. Policy DN, committing funds. Now, this one is, you know what, I'm going to take that out. Sorry, I'm taking out committing funds.
What does that mean, take that out?
We're going to discuss it. DBG, budget adoption procedures. All right. DGA, authorized signatures. DH, bonded employees and officers.
You can go on too fast.
I can hand this over to you too.
Okay.
EFC, free and reduced price food services. GBEA, staff ethics, conflict of interest. GBEC, drug-free workplace policy. GBI, staff participation in political activities. GBIA, collective bargaining activities. GCCC, professional staff family and medical leave. And HB, negotiations, legal status. All right, those will all move forward to second reading. Okay, so the ones that I think everybody wants to talk about. Let's first talk about policy DN, the committing funds policy. This is a new policy to the Nashoba Regional School District. It was brought forward by Neil Darcy, who thought that we needed this in our policy manual.
I'm good with that.
Well, I was on the committee.
Mark and Lynn,
I'm okay with the intent. I'd like to...
reduce the number, right?
No, actually, I don't mind about the number. I don't care deeply about it. I find it hard to read, and I'd like to change some of the wording, like, it's mostly wordsmithing rather than really changing the content of it. So maybe I could pass this back to the committee as some suggestions.
Yep.
All right.
And for example, this would be like the one-to-one initiative leases where they put it out over 3 years, the way they're doing that. Is that what this would fall under?
I think the example that was used was
the math pilot.
the math pilot that we weren't aware of, and that how the money was allocated for it. So that was the genesis of it, the concern related to that.
But under the technical reading of the policy, that those annual leases would also fall under this, so you have to at least...
What's this going to mean for work in the administrative? I'm not discounting it at all, but what's the impact of work to the administrative team?
Means you're going to have these through the, I would say through the budget process, any budget, anything $500,000 or more.
50,000.
50,000, excuse me. 50,000 or more will have to be approved before, by the school committee, that's all.
Oh, okay. Okay with that.
What would stop somebody from just expanding it over more years? Because if I'm reading, if I read this right, so committed funds in excess of $50,000 in total, sorry, missed that part. So it'd be the total and then all right.
I mean, we're moving into the budget book anyway. The budget book has detail in it that we've never had before. I think this kind of goes hand in hand with the thought of that. I'm assuming.
This did come up before all the talk about the budget book. I mean, I think that might have been always in Neil's head.
Yeah.
But yeah, this definitely fell out of the math pilot discussion.
I think that's great. I'm good with that.
If we were to think about the current year's budget, how many items do you think we would have, if we made a page in the budget book for this, for example, how many items do you think we might have had on it?
Not many. I think mainly the computer leases would fall into that category, and some curriculum, the math, even that was total cost.
Total cost.
50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about how you look at things. I mean, obviously things like, technically things like the bus contract would fall under it, because that's a certain, those types of contracts. Energy contracts, so it actually would be quite a few things. Energy contracts would fall under it, because we usually commit to our oil and utilities for a period of multiple years. So I mean, all those things.
I think this makes perfect sense.
I think it's fine.
I mean, it just seems like, and it puts the onus on the school committee too, to make sure. So one of the things, I have to thank all of you and the policy subcommittee for doing this, because one of the things that we've done over the year is try to figure out how do we systematically ensure that we don't get into sloppy habits again. Either as a school committee with the work that we do, or the oversight that we provide. And I think that goes a long way to helping that. So that's a great policy.
Well, we have to give Neil Darcy credit on this one.
Congrats, Neil.
Do we have a variety of service contracts as well that might leap over the threshold, at least on an annual basis, that are...
It's not, this is off the top of my head, there's not too many service contracts, I think, that we sign on multiple year basis.
Yeah.
But, I think there's value in it too, because not only does it show what the commitments are for future years, so people understand that and aren't surprised by it, but also shows what the economies are. Because I mean, sometimes we're able to make good deals and, based on electricity and oil contracts and things like that, and we'll be able to show that that's the case too, so.
My main intent is not to make it onerous, but, make it a useful tool without causing trouble.
I mean, the possibility might be, that we might miss something, but.
All right.
Ready?
So that policy will go back to the policy committee with wordsmithing suggestions from Mark Jones.
Perfect. Thank you.
We might be able to bring it forward for a second reading. I'll sit with you after and we'll see if we understand the same.
Sure.
All right. Policy KE, public access to the school committee and process for resolution of public concerns. There was not a lot of changes to this one, but we did rework a little bit the process for agenda items. You can see the red there.
Right. And that's actually where I have a comment, because it's in relation to our bylaws, which are upside down, and this follows our upside down bylaws, where the school committee chair should be responsible in consultation with the superintendent.
So if we adopt this policy, it then...
He's saying flip it.
So I'm saying make the school chair responsible in consultation with the superintendent.
Right.
I agree with that.
Okay.
And I think that was the intent, but I think the more precise language
Which is added,
is
yeah.
good. Yep.
So are you contacting the superintendent or the school committee, or how are you getting the agenda items on?
You still get the direct request to the school committee chair. I mean, Dr. Bates, he'll tell me some of the things he wants to put on. We just collaborate, but if it weren't the two of us working together, this needs to be written to ensure that the school committee chair is responsible for the agenda. It's a school committee meeting.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, you flipped them, but now it's saying community members who wish to have items placed on the agenda should contact either the superintendent or a member of the school committee.
Yeah, and if you contact the superintendent, he'll contact me, and we talk about it.
Question to the chair.
All right, so it will read now, the school committee chair, in collaboration with the superintendent, is responsible for preparing the agenda.
Yes.
That's how,
I prefer the school committee chair is responsible, comma, in collaboration, or something like that.
Oh, I don't know. Say it again, Nicole?
the school committee chair, in collaboration with the superintendent, is responsible for preparing the agenda.
So what I'm avoiding is you get this partnership that doesn't agree, and who's in charge?
The school committee chair is responsible. He's right. The school committee chair is responsible for building the agenda with support or with something. Maybe the word collaboration is the word. Consultation's perfect. Take that one.
All right, so the school committee chair is responsible for preparing the agenda.
In consultation with the superintendent.
Okay.
How's that?
That's great for me.
Okay.
Did you get that, Alita?
School committee chair is responsible.
For preparing the agenda in consultation with. You guys did a ton of work. This is great.
We did. We have done work.
School committee chair is responsible for preparing the agenda on consultations with the superintendent.
So with that small change, I think we can move that forward for a second reading.
So I have a question on page 2.
Yeah.
On the list of people you might, try to resolve your difficulties. Is school building administrator, isn't that person the principal? Are there other occasions when it's not the principal? Can we just say principal?
Well, what if the principal's not there?
The assistant, whoever's designated at that time.
Is it, so I'm just saying, is it clearer if we say principal or vice principal, or is it sufficient for everybody to just call it school building administrator?
I think it's school building administrator, because if it's not the principal who's not in
Could
the
be the next
building.
person in line.
I mean, think about George, when, if he was out of the building.
Yeah. Okay.
All three at the high school are, then it goes to Jody or somebody.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, so with that change, we'll move that on to the second reading. All right, file IK, student progress reports to parents, guardians. We didn't make a change to this, but I have received correspondence from a community member who wanted to talk to about this, and given our schedule the last couple weeks, I have not talked to them yet. So I would like to speak to some members of the community about this before we pass it on.
So tell us what the thoughts were.
I have no idea.
Oh!
I have not.
So they should come to a policy
Right.
committee?
Yes,
Okay. As
Okay,
long as
that
they
makes
know that
sense.
that's
Yes.
the proper change.
yes, yes. So, but do any of you have thoughts on it? No, all right.
I want to know what their concerns
All
are.
right. All right, that's going to go back to policy then. File KDB, Public's Right to Information. We added in a little thing requiring that the district make its, actually I think it was Kathy.
That was good. That's a good one.
Make its, all its good stuff available online.
Sounds good.
So I have a question on the next to last line. Building administrator is authorized to use all means available. I mean, isn't that a little bit expansive? I mean, how about just best efforts or some similar meaning if the administrators have some...
So we don't rack up a bill?
So what is your suggestion, Mark?
I don't have a suggestion, which is my failure, but all means available is just a little bit of a responsibility level that might be not intended.
It sounds like it could be excessive. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Right.
Is authorized.
Each building administrator is authorized to...
Is 10 years a typical length of time?
You know what, we consulted with Alita on this, and
And
she seems to think it.
Well, like, this old district only kept it on for 1 year.
Right.
In
Right now, we don't go back 10 years on ours.
Oh, yes, we do.
We do.
They go way back. Well, the archive materials go back, I think, 2000. Yeah, 2000.
And they've been very helpful to get
Particular
more than 10
schools.
years old minutes.
It's not the norm, we're way above the norm.
Yes,
We're
you are.
exceptional.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you got
I'd rather
kudos
this say that
from
each
your,
building
legal
administrator is
counsel.
authorized to
Really?
use
Giddy up.
You said it's
whatever
highly
like
unusual.
district.
10 years?
Well, transparency,
District
that's what we're
norms.
all about.
It's almost like, you know how,
Most
like
people
Joel Bates has a process by
washes it
which
out
he
during the
uses
summer
all
and starts
his
fresh.
available
and-
technology.
Oh, I find that hard.
No.
So much is ongoing.
Oh, sorry.
Bird walking.
Yeah.
What are we bird walking on here? The bird walk, Kathy Cody and bird walk. What are we walking? Where are we
Always
walking?
available.
All means available.
All means
So
available.
What,
Maybe we'd send it back to the committee to improve that phrase.
Well, I guess what do you want it to say, or what do you not want it to
Just like,
say?
it's like, you're gonna get out your police car and go find this person.
But is that available to them? I mean, we're allowing the buildings to do their own thing in
Yeah, well, how
in
about-
communicating with the,
How about just take it out and say each building administrator is authorized to keep parents, guardians, and others in particular, blah, 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 informed. And then you don't have to always,
Excellent.
That's a good idea.
right? So,
all right, is authorized
Yep.
to keep.
to keep. So we are taking, use all
Yeah.
means available to,
Right.
did you get that? All right, that will go to second reading. I'm gonna put this on towards the end. All right, file AB, the
AB.
people and their school district.
There's school committee. It says school
So-
committee on the tab, okay.
I think,
All right.
That's different. The title and what's on
It should be school committee, shouldn't it?
I don't know.
The AB.
What is it, school committee or school
let's
district?
talk about it.
It says the source is MASC. Give me a second and I'll go check it out.
Yeah, we took this right from them.
Yeah.
It looks like committee, because nowhere does it say district. Wait, except at the top. Oh, wow, I don't know. You guys gotta clarify that one.
Wait a sec. They have their own. Reference.
You think?
I'm thinking we research
that
this a
one
little bit and
aside.
put it back to policy.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
MASC has it as, the title of it is the people in their school district, but it's all about the people in their school committee.
So we'll put that back to,
Maybe just changing the title.
yeah, it might just be that easy.
So as long as this is in front of us though,
Yeah, don't do it.
It's good.
it got my attention that the phrase, "school committee will not relinquish any of this authority since it believes," and I just am a little challenged by the idea of a committee believes something. I just wonder if there's some,
Where?
The very
next to
last,
last line.
the very last sentence of
They
the,
will not relinquish any of its.
So I'm just wondering if the committee might find some better phrasing than believes.
The committee will not relinquish any of this authority. Or decision-making control over the children's learning? No,
Doesn't
something.
make any
What are we,
sense.
what's the point?
all right, so
The
let's
committee will
reword
not
this.
relinquish any of this authority.
It's basically asserting that the committee is in charge because they have statutory authority and they're not giving it up. For the good purpose of making control over local citizens
Okay.
possible.
So either we can do this quick, or we can move it off for you guys to do it, but one suggestion is, the committee will not relinquish any of this authority as the decision-making control over the children's learning should be in the hands of local citizens. And just take out that as much as possible, that's... Then you get out the, it believes.
All right. That will go back to policy. All right, so we have 3 big ones left.
Yeah, you do, because those are probably the ones I
So,
picked up.
so, let's start then with policy IJNDD, the online communication policy. This was brought to the policy committee as part of our communication goal, and the timing of it just happened to coincide with some social media that we,
Situation.
Yes, yes. However, after going over it, the policy committee came to a consensus that it really didn't need any revisions, that the administration needed to be held responsible for enacting this policy.
So I would like to have another chance to review this in depth, because I went through the stack and I put this one aside, and then I got caught up in
Okay.
something unrelated. But
So you don't have anything to say?
I don't have anything to say yet,
Yes.
but I will
You reserve the right to be able to say something.
at the next reading.
Okay.
Has anybody from the unions been involved in this? Because when this was written,
In this particular one, no.
they sat in, and they might have something to say about it when you go over it again.
Well, we're going to bring it forward for a second reading where Lynn is going to, Lorraine, I've gotten your,
That's all right. They both start with L?
yes. Lorraine wants to talk more, Lorraine wants to just talk about it, so,
Well, I was just wondering if you want to just make them aware of it, because they were, this particular one, because a lot of them do like robotics or whatever they're doing for their mentoring, or they use social media. And so they were really adamant about the way it was worded.
Who was?
think-
The union was?
The union came in?
No, Al Fortiani.
Yes, and somebody else. I think 2 people came in and they sat through this whole thing.
Recently, or when you
When
guys
it
did
was first written.
before?
It was first written.
So what would be, would you
Can
ask
you-
them to weigh in on it, or just
Yeah.
let
Well,
them?
these are the
These are school committee
policy of the school committee.
Right.
They made sure that they were here for that one.
Well, they're welcome to come.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to
Or
let them
attend
send
the
them
pol-
out
or
there
attend-
again.
Yeah, invite them.
Invite them
Invite
to the
them.
policy subcommittee,
Good idea.
if they have any.
well, I wasn't going to put it on the policy agenda, but okay.
Sorry.
But, I mean, you might as well
They were
dot your
really
i's
concerned
and
about this
cross
one.
your t's, right?
Well, yeah, if we could send it to them, though, and ask them, do you have any new thoughts on it? And then if they do, then we can put it on.
You send it to the president and the vice president of the union and ask if they have any to, and if they do, to attend
And
their
then
next
to
meeting.
attend, so then we
Yeah,
can
have
put it on the
date.
agenda. Could you do that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Sure. All right, so ADA, School District Goals and Objectives.
Can you
There was
just,
a lot of,
can you capitalize school committee every time you see it? It's a, thank you.
This is ADA.
We have to do this, right? So, I mean, I love it, but this has to be put in place. Like, this has to happen.
If these are our overarching goals and objectives, then they are the umbrella under which everything else should come.
Right.
And so you reference it wherever you can. And I think that if you did a, sort of an evaluation, if you will, and put these on a chart, you could send them around and see how people respond to what we do. So it's a way to evaluate it if you so chose, but I think keeping them in the front of the screen is important. And I think that just what I've seen and observed, I think that these are evident in the work of the educators. And I think looking at that last one, I would say the work that the school committee has done this year certainly is in line with that last one.
I really like this policy.
I really don't like this policy.
Why?
I think obviously, all of these things are really great things to aspire to. I think that's really great, and that's what we want. I think we're making a policy that basically says what our goals are to future school committees. And, you know, they're very broad. I get that. I would just rather say that the school committee is going to do the best it can to make a strategic plan every year.
So, I wasn't in the policy subcommittee meetings, but I would just say that, again, this policy, I don't know who the author of it is, I don't need to know, I don't care, but I think what this policy says is, we are going to commit that no matter what year it is, no matter who happens to sit in the seats around this table, we will have measurable goals, we will hold people accountable, and
That's what I
agree-
want to say. The school committee will come up with measurable goals and keep people accountable. It's the bullet points that I have the issue with.
What if you don't, what if they're not all proficient?
In particular, because you don't want to oblige
I don't-
future
yeah.
future school committees, or the particular goals? Which aspect?
Or that if we don't have all kids who are proficient, that we've violated our own policy.
Right. What if they're not all?
And no, that's not what I'm,
Okay.
because I think our goal should be that students develop proficiency in academic skills. I think that should be a goal, but I don't think it should be in a policy.
What do you think?
It's through your mission, vision, values, and goals that you already have. But if it's in a policy, then you're going to have to look at that policy every single year to make sure that your district plan, all school improvement plans, and everything are aligned to that.
But what if we don't meet the goal?
Well, then you make adjustments to that. If you don't make it, then you extend out and then you figure out why you didn't make it, and then you.
So I have a child, and my child is a different learner. Okay? So my child is not being taught to his potential because he learns differently. So I have a complaint. And when he graduates, he doesn't come through as proficient as per who? As per MCAST? He's got to come out proficient in MCAST?
No,
Where's the measure?
Well, you have different types of measures. It's not just
No,
one measure.
that's what we're trying to say here.
But what if I don't like the measure that you're going by?
All right, now you're down another roadblock.
And it's fine, 'cause I mean, I love the intent.
What don't you like about it? I guess let's do that.
I think we're giving ourselves something that we have to meet that we can't promise.
Well, you can't promise anything, but you do your best to meet it. And if
I
you
know,
don't
no,
meet
but
it, then
just
you
like-
evaluate the reasons why. And
Should
to
be
your
that we
point,
educate as best as we can, and that.
well, our
and we
goals and
have
objectives
general,
to, is it ensure? It is our intention. Our goals are intended to. I mean, if it's just the word.
I know, but.
All right, wait a minute, let's get it on track. So, Kathy, you want to keep this goals and objectives portion in, Lynn's saying take it out. Nicole said take it out. Mark saying,
I have a question
have a
for our
particular
humble
thing.
administrators. So this is a similar conversation that happens at the teacher level, where I'm sure the conversation between the teachers and principals is, we have to be responsible for achievement of our kids as opposed to just doing the right work in relation to our kids. Is that
Well, they have
is that one kind of philosophical conversation that
Well, it's
happens?
not just philosophical, but they have to develop goals every single year.
Right.
So if you have this as a policy, and some teacher wants to develop a goal that's out here, you're gonna have to make sure everything is aligned if that's a policy.
But aren't they, to me, these are broad enough that you could pack a lot of stuff under
but I
them.
think what Kurt is saying is that these are visions and goals, and vision statements, I know are kind of throwaway, it's really philosophical statement, but I think I understand what Kathy's saying, which is, how do we formalize it? And that's why you wanted to see it in the policy, is that right?
I think you say what you're about, and maybe the argument is, does it belong in policy if it's a statement of, what we're about? I think the ultimate goal is to have everybody who works in this district recognize what our obligation is to students and to acting responsibly with regard to, what is in the last bullet. Where does that go? If not in policy, then where? And how is it in the front of everybody's screen? Because I don't see this. I've looked at the mission, I've looked at the strategic plan.
As a school committee member, don't you then have the obligation to put that in the strategic plan and put that in the district goals?
I don't write the strategic
Right.
plan, I approve it.
The administrator writes it.
Right. I would
Wouldn't
say
you look for it there, then when you approve
I
this?
would.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe I would approve this, Dr. Bates, if it included allocation of,
But where does this states something very succinctly about the work of a school district. And if it's not in policy, where do we put it so that it resides someplace where it is visible and people recognize that this is what we're about?
Based on the way you just described it, I don't think it should be buried in the policy.
Meaning people don't read the policies?
I think based on the way you described it,
Right, but where?
this summer,
Yeah.
when we do our goal-setting session, we have to re-examine our mission statement.
Okay.
And we have to re-examine all of those guiding principles. To me, that's what this is.
As long as they
And
live
that would get
somewhere.
plastered on agendas, and we need, I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
If that's what you want this to be, don't bury it in a policy.
Well, it could be in the policy, but it'd have to be other places too. But I'm not married to it being in the policy. If
I-
it's not technically if technically it should not be part of a policy,
It's a mission and vision statement.
right, then
I
I'm
mean,
cool putting it someplace else. But I'm saying that these are a good framework for
Yes.
subsequent goals and objectives.
Yes.
So I'm not married to it being the policy. I am married to it being
somewhere.
Somewhere.
being
It's
somewhere.
guiding principles, and this is what you want to recommend to us to use in order to, when people say, who are you, what are you about, what are your goals for your district?
Yeah.
It's that.
Yes, indeed.
And then, and I'm not gonna go down the rat hole, but then that means, I would say, and so what does that mean? And what does that look like? And that's the work we'll have to do.
Yes, no,
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
So, did we get to a point where this belongs
Someplace
in a
else?
different discussion, but in a prominent position, but not necessarily?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Mark?
I don't have a strong
I knew you were
statement
gonna
where
say
it fits.
All right, so I think then removing these bullets, making sure they end up on an important document that we refer to when the school committee is establishing our goals,
Creation.
and then we can move this to a second reading.
What I was looking for is make sure that it's in there, the creation of annual goals and objectives, so you have that in there.
Yep. It's in the second paragraph.
I'm gonna put this right here,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. Develop, creation and
Okay.
incorporating. Yep.
And the main thing, again, as an administrator, you have to make sure, because it says that if this gets adopted as policy, that the creation of your annual goals and objectives are to be incorporated into district and school plans, so that it is behooved by the administrator to make sure that that gets communicated out there as schools develop their plans. Now, the piece is, improvement plans are completed when?
That's a very good question.
I know ours always had to be done by the end of the school year.
Yep.
But if your goals and objectives are not being done until you start your new, then you're going to have a disconnect.
Well, we're out of sync right now.
Right.
We have to get
Yeah,
back
we
on
gotta
track.
get
Yeah,
Yeah.
We
no,
had
that's a
to
goal.
hire a superintendent this year.
No?
We did.
And we're not done yet.
No, we're not done. Okay, go ahead.
All right, finally. Hi.
Yeah, I have questions on this one.
Policy DB, annual budgets.
DB.
DB.
Got it.
Oh,
This one has
Nicole.
dogged the policy committee for months.
Why don't you position the reason for your edits first?
Well, much of what we're reviewing tonight is part of the policy committee's communication goal that they had set for the year. And this, when we were going over the policy handbook, this particular policy, we decided was actually part of the communication piece. Once we got into it, we obviously felt that things needed to be added, and
This looks different from what I remember us talking about, though.
it did change a little bit with the last meeting that you were not at.
See,
Yeah.
not nuts. Well,
Okay, so keep
Yes.
going on, you're losing me.
I got it.
So you can see all the talk that came it came to this. Neil and I were the final people who pushed this through to the school committee. We thought, with asking Dr. Bates certain things, that this gave the administration the leeway it needed to enact and review and put in place a budget while having the school committee be ultimately responsible for its approval.
Okay,
This one or the old one?
all right, so who has comments on this? Anyone?
Is it de facto or de facto in the second line?
I think or is person.
I don't know.
I've never heard de facto. I've heard of de facto.
Wait, let's get back on track. So what, this doesn't feel, it feels not comfortable for me.
Yeah, this was a hard one to get through.
So, when I was running for office, this is my sole object that I could say the school committee has a responsibility it is not undertaking. And the sentence that said, delegates the development of the budget to the budget subcommittee, which was not doing any such thing and was never even making inquiries as to the development of a budget. So actually, it's one of the
No,
things-
that's not true. The subcommittee did make inquiries, but keep going.
Okay. So I would say, I would actually say to people, I think that the school committee should follow its own policy and participate in making the budget. So that's why I'm interested in seeing it substantially similar to what it
Yes.
has been.
There was talk of, does the finance committee actually put together the budget?
Right. Right.
But the finance can,
And the fact on the ground is no, it
Right.
doesn't.
Right.
right.
At least to date, and is truly developed
We're
by
not
the
doing that. We pay
administration.
people to do that.
Right, right, and it could be, conceptually, it is delegating it to the administration, but wants to have authority or something like that. So the parallel thing is, how does the town of Bolton create its budget? It actually turns out that the finance committee does it, although under statute, it should be the selectmen. But in any
All right,
case,
so back on
the
track.
parallel thing is-
What do you take issue with, or what are your concerns on this? And
Sure. So, thinking historically, the school committee was in a cultural location where it was not participating in the development of its budget. And I would like to, in some way, have a policy that indicates it's a participant in its in the budget development process, not as opposed to receiving something at the end of the process. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
so I guess the question is, this is going to sound like splitting hairs. Is the question the development of the budget, meaning the physical development of it, or the direction of whatever's, and you know, Mark, I know where you're at, and I'm with you on it, because, you know, there's still a little bit of PTSD, so folks don't want to, again, we go back to how do we put things in place so that we have a systematic approach to avoiding not doing the job.
Right. And it's definitely the case that bylaws don't make committees do things. They're a guide. Or policies don't
also-
necessarily make people do things, although we hope that they are a guide.
But I also don't want to duplicate the work of people who are getting paid handsomely to do the work, right?
Right. Yeah.
So tell us what you would propose. Practically.
Go.
So wouldn't the,
Wait.
Go ahead.
No, I want to hear what your proposal is.
So perhaps my difficulty is I didn't have a proposal other than stasis and maybe further conversation. And I recognize that we don't and probably never, perhaps never will develop the budget, although I can imagine some active committee saying, we want all the information and we're going to develop the budget. You know?
And if we did do
I
that,
can imagine
I
that,
could
but I'm
see
not
the
actually proposing
superintendent
it.
saying, get out of there. That's
Okay.
my stuff. Why don't you weigh in on this, sir? Because I
I'm not
know where you're
proposing
at,
it.
but
Right.
but, you know, it's kind of like the pendulum sometimes has to swing to the 180-degree side before it
Right.
starts to settle in the middle. Dr.
Right.
Bates, can you give us
But
some input?
in my opinion, your budget subcommittee is sort of like the sounding board, and that information is handled
Yeah.
through that.
Yeah, we want that to be the case.
But you're not developing it. You're being informed.
Yep. Yeah, I grant you that.
Oh, maybe that's the word that's the issue, is delegate.
It seems to me that I'm looking at the DB from MASC's budget manual, and it goes in a completely different direction. Well, it says the annual budget is the financial expression of the educational program of the school department, and it mirrors the problems and difficulties that confront the school system. The budget then is more than just a financial instrument and requires on the part of the committee, the staff, and the community orderly and cooperative effort to ensure sound fiscal practices for achieving the educational goals and objectives of the school district. Public school budgeting is regulated and controlled by legislation, state regs, and local school committee requirements.
What are you reading?
I'm reading the,
MASC.
this is MASC. What I'm saying is that this
Yes.
gives the framework for it and doesn't go into, this is, we're crafting it based on what we want to do. I'm asking that we look at this in comparison. The final paragraph, it says, public school budget is regulated and controlled by state legislation, state regs, and the local school, this is very short, local school committee requirements. The operating budget for the school system will be prepared and presented in line with state policy and will be developed and refined in accordance with these same requirements. So nothing, I don't think anything in ours, or maybe it does, talks about state requirements. The superintendent will serve as the budget officer, but he/she may delegate portions of this responsibility to members of his or her staff as he/she deems appropriate. 3 general areas of responsibility for the superintendent of the budget officer will be budget preparation, budget presentation, and budget administration.
All right, so let's not read anymore.
I'm done.
But I think basically what you're saying is, have we crafted something that
We don't need.
Right,
So just pull that.
right.
All right, so,
Okay.
That's what I heard.
do you like that?
Thank you.
You got it.
So we will move this back to policy. We'll invite you to that meeting.
Sure.
Please.
And it seems like Kathy knows the tenor of the overall committee, and we'll move that forward. And that, my friends, concludes the
Policy
policy
review.
portion.
Thank you. You guys have put off reviewing these for so long. Okay, we have no old business, subcommittee reports, finance, Mark?
The Finance Committee has not met since we
Pardon?
last met. I think the Finance Committee has not met since our last school committee meeting.
Okay.
And there may be a policy or two forthcoming out of the next Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
And I don't think I have any other particular things to report.
Okay. Kathy, personnel.
Oh, okay, hang on.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Do you want me to jump?
No.
Policy, you don't have any, do you?
No, we have.
Oh, dear God.
Okay, personnel. All right, so the Personnel Subcommittee has been addressing something that came up during the budget discussions relative to professional development money and money for course reimbursement. That we asked some questions about how it is budgeted We wanted to take another look, and our goal is to evaluate these benefits as we look for ways for the budget to better support the needs of students. So the PSC requested the following information: a 10-year look back at what the district has spent on graduate courses and professional development for non-union people, and then comparative data from other districts. We also created spreadsheets with benefit information from non-union contracts that are currently held by district employees, and these spreadsheets are included in the meeting materials. Our inquiry into course reimbursement and professional development led to our examination of all non-union contracts, which led to questions and concerns not only about course reimbursement and professional development, but other provisions of these non-union contracts. Questions and concerns were discussed with Dr. Bates and given to District Council for review. Our findings, after reviewing all of the non-union contracts, we decided that we had concern because they did not reflect well on us as a district. We found issues with the physical product, but we're also concerned that these contracts could impose financial obligations on the district that the administration did not intend and that the school committee was not aware of. So concerns about the contracts themselves include one building administrator's contract does not have a paid time off clause. An assistant principal's start date was listed as August 2015, and the end date was listed as June 2015. There were inconsistencies in the number of paid holidays that people were given, differences in the way that the fringe benefit section was defined, and then just punctuation errors, inconsistent formatting. In a word, my word, sloppy, unprofessional. We had concerns about contract provisions. These include compensation, that the contracts indicate that the superintendent sets the salaries. However, the district policy, GCBA, professional staff salary schedules indicates that the salaries are set annually by the school committee with the advice of the superintendent. We have concerns about the longevity position, so I'll read it to you. After the completion of 10 years of continuous service in the district, the employee shall be eligible once during the term of his or her employment to receive a supplementary longevity benefit in the amount of 10% of his or her annual salary at the time of election of the benefit. Election of the benefit must be made in writing to the superintendent of schools prior to February of any year. Commencing in July following the notice of election, the benefit shall be paid in 3 annual installments. If the principal retires prior to the completion of 3 years, any unpaid amount shall be paid to the principal prior to his or her retirement. In the event of death, any unpaid amount shall be paid to the estate of the employee. The PSC expressed concern. This entitlement rewards employees for numbers of years on job as opposed to any kind of merit or achievement. Past payouts range from $9,386 to $15,793. Concerns about professional development include: we noted inconsistencies across contracts regarding dollar amounts allocated for professional development and course reimbursement. And this raised concerns for us about how the money was used. For example, one employee was reimbursed $518 for a conference and reimbursed $1,032 for the airfare and hotel to attend that conference. Committee was concerned about contracts that do not quantify a dollar amount for PD and instead allow for reimbursement for quote-unquote reasonable expenses. This concern followed the realization that an employee was reimbursed $21,535 for 4 years of professional development. Most non-union contracts provide a professional development benefit of 2 graduate courses. We found one contract where the employee receives a benefit of 4 graduate courses, and over a 3-year period of time has resulted in $18,412 in reimbursements. We recently found out that these reimbursements were for 8 courses at the New England School of Law. Moving forward, the PSC supports the following recommendations for all new contracts set for renewal in June 2016. Longevity, we would like to see this dropped from all new contracts. We would like to see a system for merit-based salary increases. So one idea would be for the school committee to approve a range of percent increases that the superintendent can assign based on the performance of an employee. Course reimbursement and professional development. We'd like to see the reimbursement for graduate courses dropped and rather establish a set amount for professional development. What we had seen is between $1,500 and $2,000 that can be used towards graduate courses or other professional development. The PSC would like to see a provision that reflects this added to the policy, the protocol. Something dropped off here, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I get it. Hang on, just give me 1 second.
Are you asking for a vote tonight?
Let me finish and then we'll talk about.
Well, yes or no? Are you
Hang on.
asking for a vote?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that we might want to chew on this and come back.
Yeah, I don't think you're asking for a
Moving
vote.
forward, longevity courses. All right. All right, I'm just going to go on. In a conversation with district council, it was advised that we do not need to create a policy to address professional development. It's possible to handle it by establishing a set of guidelines. The professional development procedure and application created by Dr. Bates creates some guidelines, and that application and procedure are included in the meeting materials. I would like to see the following included as well. That the application for professional development reimbursement must be completed. Professional development must be directly related to the current position held by the employee. The contracted amount for PD may be applied to graduate courses. The contract amount for PD may not be used to pay for travel, lodging, meals, materials, or licenses to meet job requirements. We found in our examination of reimbursements that an employee was reimbursed the cost of a license that individual needed for his job. For those contracts not up for renewal in June 2016, the PSC recommends that approved graduate courses only be reimbursed commensurate with the cost of a course at a Massachusetts State College or University, and I think that's in the ballpark of about $800. Additionally, the PSC recommends that there be no reimbursement for airfare, mileage, registration fees, hotel, etc. Moving forward also, we need to set salary levels for principals, assistant principals, business manager, SPED/PBS director, curriculum coordinators, and this would be pursuant to our policy about setting salary levels policy, GCBA. Dr. Bates will work with district council to ensure that all contract language is aligned with Massachusetts general law and school committee policy. So there are some changes that we are proposing relative to longevity and professional development. And Lorraine asked if I wanted us to vote. I don't know if we need to have more conversation or
Yeah,
what's I want to hear from the committee.
I think, well, first of all, does anybody have questions about what Kathy just read, and you need clarification on what the issues are?
I would like to
So we're going to put that online.
see just a presentation or even that.
It's a lot.
It's an incredible amount of data.
There's a missing sentence here that I have to find.
That's fine.
But the spreadsheets, the data that we looked at are part of the meeting materials, an analysis of the non-union contracts. There's a sheet that organizes them by the date of expiration, and then a breakdown by group.
Is there a summary like what you've read?
I'll put it on.
She's gonna put that
I'll put
online.
that on. There's also a spreadsheet that looks at what has been paid out by individual over the past 10 years for professional development and course reimbursement. And then I was able to add a tab regarding longevity. So we could see the payout for that.
So the longevity thing, we could probably have a conversation about. Yeah, no? Yeah, no? But I have a question that's kind of related. What, in our union contract, what is the total amount of professional development for Unit A?
$57,000.
Course reimbursement?
Course reimbursement.
Course reimbursement.
In the budget
Yep.
that covers it?
57?
So it's $57,000 for
300 people.
all of the teachers across the district to split up. And what's the total that we allocate, or is it the same amount that we
We never
allocated?
allocated, there was not a particular allocation. There wasn't a line item dedicated to it, I don't think.
What was it?
It is allocated, the teachers are allocated a special line of $57,000 for the purposes of their tuition reimbursement. Teacher, in addition to that, teachers are eligible for professional development, and that's in the line items through the different schools.
Right.
That's another $100,000+. The administration, both the professional development and when there is course reimbursement, which isn't every year, is all in that line item that is called central office professional development. It's in the second main budget section.
So, and do you know what that is?
It's right towards the bottom, I can't remember off the top of my
Here.
head.
So I guess the question I would have is, after what we went through, after all the materials that you dug up and things that we went through, most people aren't, the non-union employees aren't, most of them are not taking advantage of the course reimbursement that they have in their contracts. How do other districts handle that?
Dr. Bates was able to pull together comparable data, and of the data of the districts that he provided information on, I don't think there are any of them that reimburse, that have course reimbursement and PD separate. Most have a set amount for PD that can be used toward a graduate course, but it's in the ballpark of between $1,000 and $2,000. Where there are provisions for course reimbursement, it's not open-ended, and you can't just, if you go to Harvard and you apply for reimbursement, you may be reimbursed up to $800 the cost of or whatever the cost of a course is at a state college or university. So, and what we're also finding is that because of constraints and the need to tighten belts, a lot of school districts don't have a PD allocation. It's something that gets dropped. But I think that what I have seen in these contracts and the money that was spent does not compare to anything that I've seen in another school district.
So the recommendation at this point is?
I think that the PSC voted to recommend to the school committee that we drop longevity from all new contracts and replace it with a merit-based raise system. We talked about it at PSC, how in the budget, 2% is allocated for all non-union raises. And we also discussed this idea that should you just give a blanket raise like that? Shouldn't the superintendent have the discretion to say, to make decisions about salary increases?
So I have a little different thing. I remember saying eliminate longevity and not replace it with something else.
Well, would approve, we talked about having an opportunity. I remember saying that philosophically, I have a problem personally with giving a monetary reward for length of time on a job because it doesn't necessarily equate with achievement.
But
Yes.
what I'm confused. You're confusing me because I thought what we said was eliminate as the contracts expire.
Yes.
The longevity clause is not put back in there, and any new contract would not have a longevity
Exactly.
clause.
Yes.
But you mentioned replacing
Well,
it.
maybe replacing isn't the right word. Having a provision in the contracts, I would like to see us reward achievement. going above and beyond in pursuit of one's goals, and having that be what we
In addition to
recognize
a
and
salary?
celebrate. Yes, yes.
Wait, we need to talk about that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But there's a difference
Yes.
here, because I remember, now that may be your opinion,
It
but
is.
I remember saying, we pay people very well in the district. We need to make certain people whole, because there are some administrative, non-union folks who
Yes.
need to be made whole, and we don't want to lose those, so we need to, but we also need to look at, are we competitive in the market? How much more are we competitive in the market? And frankly, you give people a competitive salary, and then at the end of the year, based on the work that they've done, they get a threshold if they've done more. It's up to the superintendent to
But
say.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
yes.
But that's his call,
But we have to say, this is, just like we approved 2% raises for non-union.
Right.
In the budget, we would have to, the superintendent would come to us and say, I would like you to, I'm thinking about for salary increases would be a range, 0 to 4%, just by way of example.
Right.
We would have to approve that. That's my point, but it would be based on the superintendent making decisions.
Right, but
about-
now you're saying something different.
I'm sorry, no, I mean the same thing.
2%.
Right. What?
But you couldn't exceed the 2%, could you?
Well, that's if that were the cap, by year, is
I'm
what you're saying.
advocating
All right, because you're not,
increasing
so
the
what you're
cap.
not saying is what I thought you were saying before, which is you're looking at salary plus an additional incentive. No, the salary,
Right.
there has to be a range that the superintendent has control over.
But I would like to see it be related to
That's up to him.
achievement. No,
No, Kathy did mention that at the meeting. We did have that conversation
yeah. So,
about achievement.
so it's not replacing it with a guarantee, but if our range is
At the
0 to
discretion
4
of the
yes.
superintendent.
But let me just, so if you have longevity and you elect it for 3 years, you get a 10%, so you're essentially getting a 3.33% of whatever that is for 3 years.
Mhm.
There's the potential here, if you are excellent at what you do and have your measurable goals, show that, and you exceed expectations, according to, in the process of the evaluation.
You should be rewarded.
Yeah, and so
Right.
if you're that good and you've got 5 years left and you get 4% over 5 years, you're making out better. I mean, if you want to do,
Right.
from my point of view, dollars and cents.
So-
It's the philosophical issue I have with rewarding longevity.
I think we're all on the same, or at least,
I don't know, I am.
I think the policy subcommittee was on it. That's what you understood, right? Okay.
Okay.
I think, so now that we've clarified that, what do you folks feel about this longevity clause?
So just for clarifying, you're not so happy that the longevity is a fixed amount, it comes with time, and that's that.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
And that you would like,
It's like steps.
in the alternative, to have some other means to recognize achievement or great work of
Yes.
some variety,
Yes.
and through policy or other guideline, direct the superintendent to allow that to be
Be through the budget
paid.
process, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know that this is something, this isn't, I'm not coming up with anything new and different.
Right.
Many districts do this.
Right.
Very few districts still have, and this is in my conversation with Kevin Bresnahan, the district council, he said that it's rare to see this. It used to be in a lot of
It used to be
contracts.
standard and it's fallen
Yes,
away
yes,
as districts
yes.
have changed.
Yes, and I believe that you reward excellence.
Right.
Right.
Nicole?
So I'm just, now that I'm clarified, I'm favorable to the idea.
Okay. Nicole?
I don't like legislating based on past experiences. And this
What do you
feels...
mean by that? I don't-
Well, we're basically correcting a problem by legislating it, by making,
Do you see it as a problem?
Well, let her,
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
And if it's, I love merit pay. I philosophically also don't believe in longevity clauses. But those types of things have to be the purview of the people who are writing and offering the contracts. And that's not us.
Well, we have
We
responsibility for the
approve
budget.
Yes, we
Yes.
absolutely do. And so in a whole, when we take all of these contracts together, we absolutely do approve that. But we do not approve who and how and why the administration chooses to hire and pay certain people.
Right, that's what she's saying. She's saying give the control to the administration
Right.
versus a contract provision that's just automatically in a contract that says, here you go, here's your money. What Kathy's saying is exactly what you just said.
I totally get that. So why do we have to vote on making that true? Why can't our administration move forward
Based on our recommendation?
when making new contracts use
Well, we
their
have
own?
to give them the direction, right? I mean,
Do we?
Based on my conversation with your school council, that the school committee sets the, what's the word I'm looking for? Aspects of the contract that deal with finances.
Yes.
I guess that's a yes.
Well, if I'm going to agree with that particular opinion, I don't.
Okay.
That's, okay, sorry, no.
Can I quiz you, and is his advice that the method to do so could be, among other things, through a policy? Or is it strictly through budgetary means or some other means to give guidance to the superintendent?
My understanding is guidance has to be through, the wording is school policies.
Policy.
So the superintendent must follow any sort of monetary offerings based on school policies.
Right. So one regime, if we were to make this choice to end longevity, is just to have a policy, the superintendent's directed to not have administration contracts with longevity of some kind of flavor, period. That would be one kind of guidance. Is that the kind of thing that he's saying?
Probably structure it a little bit. I mean, if you have an answer, go ahead,
No,
otherwise.
I'm trying to think.
I mean, I would think you would structure it.
I'm
I think
looking
you're
for
giving
how to
the
implement the
superintendent,
guidance.
you would give the superintendent the authority based on whatever,
Some resolution.
right.
Right, there are certain components of a contract that as he shared with me, there are certain components of a contract that he can provide through a template that would follow the legal aspects of it. And through your policies, you can't, a superintendent can't unilaterally add in something.
And nor should he.
Nor should he. And if he does, we get to tell him, in his evaluation, uncool.
Right.
So for example, you could have a policy with a template contract which has fill-in-the-blank areas that we're directing the superintendent to have the authority to cope with.
Right.
So, Kathy, do we need to have a conversation about this before we move this forward?
My talking with your school council and telling him that the subcommittee had voted to bring forward to the whole committee about the elimination of the longevity, and his comment to me is, so what are they replacing it with? That was his comment to
Why
me.
do we have to replace
Well,
it?
that's what he just said, what are they replacing it with? Because he said, common practices, there is something in a contract. So that's something I would suggest that one of you either contact him and get clarification on.
Well, he's coming on the 16th.
Yes, we can wait
So
till the
you can wait till the
16th.
16th.
Right. Well, can you wait till the 16th?
Well, these contracts need to be done before June 30th.
And do some require notification before that? In terms of-
Most of these contracts are by
June
June-
25th.
June, they're late.
Or June 15th?
That was the
or
June
something like
15th,
that?
Yeah.
yeah, June 15th.
That's
is,
past practice. It's in the spreadsheet.
No, I know. I read the
Right.
contracts, but,
So in any case, we may be in a little bit of a hurry to make some decisions.
right.
In early
Yeah,
June.
people, yeah, I'm already getting questions of,
So we need to do this soon. Kathy, you're leaving tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay, I
I'll be
think we
back
need...
on Monday. Do you want me to call Kevin?
I do.
My phone works in California. I can call
So
him.
will you call him and start to?
I will.
Because it's gonna, this is not gonna be the kind of thing with, here it is, let's go. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of folks who have to weigh in on it.
Yes, but the idea that we have to replace it with something that is similar,
Yep.
it just...
But have that conversation with Kevin. Let's do that.
Okay.
Get the list of things you have.
I will.
Before we start trying to figure it out ourselves.
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Can I ask that you circulate what you read out, corrected?
I'm going to send, I'm
at
sending
the
it to Lita
appropriate
right now.
time? Great.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Policy.
I understand the late hour, I'm sorry.
It's not that late.
We haven't had a normal school committee meeting in a long time.
That is true. There's a lot of school committee business this week.
Yep.
The policy committee, and again is one of its goals, had been talking about the usability of the website in conjunction with the policies, and sometimes how difficult it can be to find policies.
So you want us to?
So I will have, that was Kathy Codian's charge, so again, I will turn this over to Kathy, who can briefly explain what the policy committee is asking for.
The policy committee is asking for a subscription to MASC's policy service. And Alita has been wonderful in tracking down the costs and getting us information. So the policy services would put our manual online with those of other districts. And right now, we have access to looking at theirs, but I think everybody knows who have gone to the district website to look at our policies, that there's a gymnastic effort to get them and open them, because then you have to download it, and well, everybody knows. So this would put them online. They would give us a link, they would maintain it, and they would provide us with automatic updates. I think Alita, could you speak to the cost?
It's in here, right?
It's
$3,500 the first year and $950 thereafter for the subscription?
So it would be good for us in terms of having access to our own, but I also think it's a good resource for the public as well, because it makes looking at them easier.
But to clarify, this is just a repository?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we just built a brand-new website. I don't have you know what? I'm not saying no, I'm just throwing it out there. I think it's a great idea, but we just built a website. We just spent a lot of time putting all these policies online. Where are we going to take the $3,500 from?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, we
Can
don't
I
have an
look
answer
in
for
the
that.
budget?
We did want to use tonight to open the door to maybe starting to think about.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
We have, I think it's around $8,000 that's in the school committee line item. And I know that's typically used for us to go to MASC and...
Oh, girl, we are, I mean, based on...
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm saying that is one area where it can,
What do you want to say?
All I'm saying is that maybe not everybody has to go.
No.
We could save money.
I absolutely will. No way,
That's because we
Kathy.
had such a great time
No,
last year.
it wasn't a great time. We would never be here if we hadn't all gone
I
there.
hear you, I hear you.
So why don't we do this?
Okay.
Why don't,
Is it possible this purchase might be engaged this fiscal year?
why don't you, well,
That was the idea I had. Can I finish my idea now? At the end of the year, sometimes there is money left over. Could we see if there's money left over this year that we could use for this?
okay, at what point did you guys want to target doing this work? And how long would it take to implement?
It's not going to take hardly any time at all to implement, is that correct?
Yes, their guidelines is they want it in Word format, which we already have, and they want it coded per their coding, which we already use.
Oh, that's good, okay.
So,
So, do they tell you, what the lag time is, if you gotta get in the
we didn't really
queue?
get into
Okay.
details about,
All right.
I mean,
And,
it would still be hosted on our website, so there would never be a lag time. There would always be access to it, because we wouldn't take it off our site until theirs is up.
So what if you want to make changes? Do
They,
you make them?
if it's a policy change that we send it to them, they make it, but if it's a state regulation change, they automatically update all of our policies of any state regulation changes or federal changes.
okay, so,
To answer your question, we did not have a target date in mind.
okay.
But we would like you to be open to perhaps.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you guys take this back and just put together a little something that tells us, where you think the money will come from. I want to know how long does it take them to revise them? I really want to know that because...
Michael Gilbert also said he is more than happy to come to a school committee meeting to give us a presentation.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
Because I think it's important, but I think we have questions.
Yeah, great.
So I have a
And we're not
question.
taking money away from the MASC conference.
It was just a suggestion.
And not because it's
That
fun.
money doesn't go to that anyway. Well, that money is for the actual membership to MASC.
Yes.
If we issue a purchase order, does that make it possible to encumber the money this fiscal year for such a service?
Yep.
So we don't,
But
we don't need to get to that yet.
generally, the answer is yes. There are some conditions.
Sometimes, okay.
So why don't you guys invite your friend to come in? Your
He's
friend.
Anita's friend, he's not my friend.
Because I'm sure he can answer all the questions through his presentation.
Okay.
And it will just expedite the whole process.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Will do.
thanks.
Got it.
CPAC,
No update.
Tech Committee. Whoop.
Policy Committee, I have one question on their report. I passed along a bylaw suggestion, and I was wondering when that might likely appear out of committee.
Not immediately.
I'm,
At the end of May.
okay, great. I'm interested in having it
Yes.
looked at before the new superintendent arrives on the scene.
Okay.
Okay. You've got 2 months.
And you get to keep
Poking.
poking me about it, yes.
18 months.
That's a good one, Alita.
Get my usual nay.
Okay. Tech Committee, Ms. Cody Ann.
The Tech Committee completed a survey for faculty and staff, and they administered it, and we're waiting to get the results.
Oh, good. I want
Yeah,
to see
so,
that.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you like the questions they asked?
I thought they were, they were pretty standard questions.
You know how I am with that.
I know.
Thank you.
I know.
We would love to hear your superintendent's report.
18 months?
18, if you're lucky, it's only 18 months, so please. You are gonna miss us so much.
He is not.
You are gonna miss us.
Keep telling yourself that.
The math survey for the math pilot program went out today to the staff.
Oh, good.
And it's due back in, I think it's May 8th. So hopefully that information will be, provide them the guidance to select the program, and so the district can move forward with the new math program. On Saturday, April 30th, at UMass Amherst, the Massachusetts School Library Association will be honoring one of your principals, Joel Bates, principal of Florence Sawyer Elementary School, as the recipient of the 2016 Administrative Advocate Award. He was nominated by Michael Caligiuri, the school librarian, And so I congratulate Mr. Bates on that award, which is very nice. The Nashoba Regional Summer Academy brochure, I sent that off to you, has come out. I think the Teaching and Learning did a nice job putting that all together. There's 14 offerings for the staff to participate in, which is really good. The Teaching and Learning staff will be meeting with all the principals. I believe it's on the 3rd to hopefully finalize plans for the 2-year professional development plan that will be in place for the new superintendent to come in. So that will be, that's one other thing to go take care of. Your robotics team at the high school is headed to St. Louis
Wonderful.
to compete in the first World Championship.
Wow.
Earning their spot with a stellar New England district season. They're called the Robo Chiefs. Are led by a trio of Do Everything seniors. You'll have to help me with the names. Greg Wolke, Matt Pelland, and Travis Wold. These 3 dedicated students have been designing geniuses and very cool competitors under stressful competition conditions. The robot programming is done by Garrison Taylor with Ben Fox and Nathaniel Crosby as primary backups, and the robot driver is head of the CNC marching audio diary, and Ruben Connor, Jake Franklin, and Eric Youngstrom are primary robot technicians. They have more than 20 student members who have done everything from prototyping to making the practice field elements to fundraising and so forth. The RoboChiefs took the district event season by storm, winning the WPI and the Boston district events and qualifying for the New England District Championship in Hartford, Connecticut last weekend. In addition to wins on the field, the team also garnered 3 industrial design awards for elegant robot design.
Wow.
At the New England Champs, Nashoba reached the semifinals and won the Motor Quality Award for superb engineering and workmanship. And this was their first all-district award. They finished the season ranked 10th in New England out of 180 teams. And this is their second top 10 finish award. So,
Can we get to see these?
would you like them to come?
Yes!
Awesome.
Oh my gosh!
Is that at 40 Downey's Group?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
So congratulations to them.
Yeah.
That's
on
a
that.
good one. I'm gonna-
I also sent you out a notification that I received today about the Community Substance Abuse Forum,
Yep.
which will be held on May 10th at Clinton High School from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. It's with Representative Harold Naughton will be hosting that, and so they would like as many districts to be represented there. And also sent out to you, this past week, across the Commonwealth, a lot of principals received unusual emails. We didn't think, some principals didn't think anything of it until it became notified, and then it was going rampant on the superintendent's listserv. And basically they were receiving emails from a quote-unquote parent telling the principal that they had a child moving into their district and really wanted to have a meeting and to meet with the principal and making sure that the schools could meet their child's specific needs because their children were being raised as, quote, and every email differed. They were either being raised as a devout Catholic, devout Christian, devout atheist, devout Muslim, devout Jewish faith, and so forth. And so when it became very prevalent, our associate MASS took it upon themselves to send copies of these emails to the Mass State Police because they were questioning whether there was any sort of connection to these emails that were going rampant to the bomb threats that were going rampant.
Oh.
But we get notification today that unfortunately, or fortunately, these strange emails were solved today, and it was confirmed that a college professor in an out-of-state college, which will remain nameless, they said, confirmed that it was the effort of a graduate student attempt in using the survey that went out to over 50,000 computers combined in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and New York, and Ohio. The research project data was provided to the state police by the professor, who indicated that the email that was sent was not meant to cause any harm, but it just caused some
Angst.
angst and disruption among.
Hope he failed that course. What a dope.
So, but I.
Professor, I don't get the point.
But I think, congratulations to, again, to MASs and the state police, who really did a yeoman's work in trying to track this down and what really caused it. But it was rapid fire among all the districts.
And that's it?
That's it for now.
That's enough?
Yep.
Okay, folks, correspondence, did anybody get anything? So I would hope that's in the packet, no? Okay, and consent agenda, we're gonna keep moving forward. If anybody has any issues with the minutes, otherwise consider them approved. Okay, items for next agenda. I don't know that you realize this, but we've only got 2 meetings on this calendar. Okay, do you really think we can wrap up all of our work? And next Wednesday is the superintendent discussion and deliberation. So do you think we can, I know, guys, I know, but we've got to add a few meetings.
Mark is thrilled beyond words. He
Mark is thrilled.
loves those extra.
Kurt is not terribly thrilled, but I think Dr. Bates.
I had to count down 5 more meetings.
I know you did. I know you did. That's why we're doing this, for you.
I know that.
I think that we need to look at extending it out to the end of the school
No,
year.
I think so.
I'll work with Dr. Bates and
No, I can't.
Alita. And
Yeah. I can't decide right now. And-
No, we're not. We're not. I'm just going to put a bunch of them out there because we need to actually start, and all you folks who are actually, I'm glad you're all here. Whatever your goals were for this year, you got to let me know what you've done, what you have left to do, and what you think your group needs to accomplish as a recommendation for the upcoming year. If you would do that, that will expedite things because
Sure.
I can do stuff on my end and then,
Yeah.
okay? All right. And with that, we are finished. And if anyone doesn't have anything more, I need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second? May I please?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you so much.